Hey, Wambra, what's going on? We are on YouTube tonight as well. Cool, huh? So tonight, snitches get snitches. Yo, dog. I don't know. That really doesn't make that much sense, but it's what I got. We do have a special guest, an excellent guest, a guest who's been on, I believe, twice now. Is this your third time on?
Yeah, third time.
And the first two were awesome. So we're really thrilled to have Mr. David Miner back.
Hello, hello.
So let's see. Do we have a visual yet, Co?
Whenever you'd like.
Let's do it. Let's do the big reveal.
Open the floodgates.
Open sesame.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wait. We gotta do it again.
Jeez.
Open the floodgates.
Open.
Oh, that's so much better.
Yeah. That looks good. Good. And I just gotta say, and I don't say this often enough, my hair is killing it today. That's salon quality shit right there. Sometimes I just look at myself in the mirror and I say, about the rest. But then I'm like, the hair? Hell yeah,
Maybe.
Are you gonna lose all your hair like me and Co?
I have so much of it that if I lost it, I could lose it for years before it becomes detectable.
Yeah, but those years, they go by, man.
They come, man. Yeah.
Mine's in retreat.
Yeah,
my dad still has a full-blown head, so.
Oh, nice. My dad looks like Captain Picard, so we'll see.
Well, we'll see if time makes it so. Oh, yeah. I have almost 4-year-olds, so I'm really working on the dad puns. They make it so is kind of right in my.
My dad's in chat. That's hilarious.
Hey, Dave's real dad. What's going on? We're making dad jokes. They're not specifically about you, but All right. So what we're covering this week? Let's just get it right out there. There is nothing to cover this week. There has been such a dearth. It's been 2 weeks since we've been on, and there's been so little music news in any way, shape, or form that it's almost like newsworthy on its own. Just how nothing the news is. Like 2 weeks. Usually, there's stuff that happens in the music world. Usually, something happens in the gear world. There's usually something that's generated every week. Not the case this time.
It's that post NAM.
It's that post NAM, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, SenseNet, welcome.
And people aren't releasing their summer tracks yet. That's kind of where we're at.
Summer tracks.
Yeah.
Usually there's at least some kind of some hysterically overweight music producer sexually harassed somebody, or an opera singer was a creep, or someone died. Usually something happens.
That's so 2019.
Yeah, maybe 2019 we're not going to have too many creepy opera singers. A1 Voodoo has a topic for the week, and we absolutely can. But SenseNet, thank you so much for noticing. I have lost weight. I'm down 55 pounds. Thank you. Yeah, we could definitely do it. If you got a topic, throw it out there. We're going to get into a few things. Now, when I say there's not much news, there is a little bit of news. It's just really underwhelming. So we do have a rest in peace to someone to put out there, and it is to keyboard legend Lyle Mays. Lyle Mays. Everyone raise their hand if they know who Lyle Mays is. And if you are X, you don't count on this one because you're the only person I can even remotely think of who knows who Lyle Mays is. But Lyle Mays in the keyboard world was pretty well known. If you read Keyboard Magazine, he came up a lot. Really good session player, a member of the Pat Metheny group. A lot of people knew him when he went on tour with his own band. A lot of people who played keyboard got to know him personally. He was a pretty big staple at cons. So he's at least very missed within the synth community. So rest in peace, Lyle Mays. That's it. There was a Kingfish solo that I wanted to play, but we're on YouTube for the first time ever, and I don't want to get dinged on YouTube by playing someone's music. So we're not doing that. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess that's news. We're on YouTube. That's kind of cool. So we're on YouTube and we're on Facebook tonight and here on Twitch. So we're doing the multi-streaming thing. Figure we should be in all the places doing all the things. All right, let's see. The total loss of Apollo and Transco last week. Yes, we're definitely the group to cover this as soon as I Google it and find out what that is. Let's see if I can quickly take an opinion and fight about it. Let's see. Hold on.
Speaking of fighting.
Yeah. Okay, that's the okay. So last week there was a factory in California that blew up and it made most of like the lacquers. Yeah, me and Al posted this one. We did know about this one. Sorry, I just didn't realize it was Apollo Transco, which is going to greatly reduce the ability to push to vinyl. If you are looking to push to vinyl at this point, you are kind of screwed. There's one other Japanese manufacturer, I believe, and they're not taking any of the overflow customers. Supply and demand and capitalism be damned. They said, no, sorry, we can't help you. They're at capacity and they're not looking to grow, especially given that it's probably a temporary growth until something else gets stood up. So, pressing vinyl right now is about to get very expensive, and it's going to be very hard to get there. Now, that's for now. The long-term outlook isn't much better because making lacquers is, as I understand it, a process that is hard and uses machinery that hasn't really been redesigned. It's just gets serviced in many years. So there's no ready to go. There's no shovel ready solution to be able to build that back up so that you can start to make lacquers again. Instead, new equipment needs to be designed, ordered, manufactured, tested, and rolled out. And that's a time sensitive process. There's money to be made though. So there's a really good chance that in the next year, someone figures out something, someone buys equipment or a new process to be able to make lacquers, or direct material mastering can happen. But that's, as I understand it, less durable. But for now, vinyl sucks. So what do you do? It's gonna be one of two things, in my opinion. You either just stick with digital or cassette tape. Yeah, that's what I prefer. I want to see everybody releasing on cassette.
All the hipsters releasing on cassette.
Yep. SenseNet, don't put the stops to your project. Release it on cassette. You got to release David Miner. I want to see your cassette come out this year. I will buy it.
Yep. Get your pencil. Yeah, put it in there and be like, wicked, wicked, wicked.
No, I'm only going to release Digitact sound packs. That's it.
Oh yeah.
But like where you like take the entire session and you put it on your own Digitact, and then that's the only way that you can listen to music.
That's how you have to play it back.
Yeah.
So what's going on, David? Since the last time you've been on, it's been a few months. So
man,
I want to hear about what's going on in your world. You got releases. You've been recording. You've still been streaming up a storm. So and what's new?
Well, so I've been working with Marigo Music. She streams on Twitch, and she and I have been writing some music together. And the girl that I work with, who goes as Fix, she and I are getting close to finishing a second record. And so both of those things are incredibly exciting. And I've kind of been trying to open up my world a little bit more and work with more people. I tend to kind of disappear into the basement and work on music all day, and so that's both of those two are very exciting. And I have a couple of other collaborations that I've been working on and relationships that I've been fostering. So that's kind of been my main focus the last maybe 6 months or so. You guys want to hear something super crazy?
Yeah.
So I've been having a lot of trouble with my right ear, and it's like it's bothered me most of my life, but it's kind of been one of these things that kind of comes and goes. And as any music creator, any producer, any musician at all, ears are really scary, and they're a really scary, like, touchy subject. So I've been having this thing where, like, it kind of has this like pressure, this fullness feeling, every once in a while I'll feel like there's like a steely in there, and if I like tip my head over, it feels like a steely rolls back over.
What's the
That
steely?
Yeah, like a BB or like a steel BB, something like
Oh,
that.
okay. Got it.
And then the weirdest symptom that I have is that I can hear my right eye move, and it sounds like really like sandpaper rubbing against itself. This eye move.
That's not terrifying at all.
It's been, and I also, when I speak, my ear rattles, and if I sing, my ear rattles. So those are kind of like the general symptoms that I have, and I've had them for years. I mean, as far as I can remember, and I've gone to doctors before and said, "Hey, I have kind of this thing," and they tell me that it's a eustachian tube problem. It'll fix itself. You know, maybe you had a cold that you're getting over, blah blah blah, like that kind of thing. So I finally, starting in January, was able to get a referral to an ear, nose, and throat doctor. I got a CT scan finally last week. And the doctor that I was seeing looked at the CT scan and said, I think we need the big doctor to look at this. So then, literally today, I went in and visited the big doctor and told me that, and I've been researching about it, and I've been pretty sure what it is. What is it called? It's called a hold on one sec. It's called a superior canal dehiscence. And basically what it is the inner ear, the middle ear is like a bunch of, it's a bone with a bunch of rounded pieces on them. And they're all covered with tissue. But with this problem that I have, the bone is exposed through the tissue, and that system, those circular bones, which is part of your balance system, is supposed to be a closed system. It has an input and it has an output, but because part of the bone is exposed to the inner part of the skull, it acts as a third window, and so you can hear all of these. It's basically all the symptoms that I'm having. And apparently it's something that you're born with. So I'm going to have surgery, and basically they drill in from the backside of the ear and they cut the bone, and then they cauterize it, and then hopefully all of it is better. To be honest, the scariest thing about it to me is the 1% chance of total hearing loss in that ear. So
1%.
That's 1%. Way too many.
But yeah, it feels like it, but the symptoms are pretty crazy.
I would go for it too. I would also be afraid. I think that those are the two right choices. You are a musician. You need to get your ears, which are your most indispensable tools, into top shape. And also, it is natural to be afraid of something like that. You should not. You shouldn't dismiss. You shouldn't dismiss how you feel just because it's scary. You should let that be real. It needs to be real, because that means you're taking it seriously.
Yeah.
So, I wish you the best on that. That is, when it's the surgery, do you know?
I don't know yet. It'll be in the next couple months sometime.
Gotcha. Well, we'd definitely like to check in with you and hear how that all is going as you ramp up, and afterwards, once you're all healed up, you want to take a victory lap on Gear-Splaining.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Yeah, it's been, it's just life is weird sometimes like that, kind of throws those things at you sometimes it feels strange. Anyway, one other thing I have that's coming up soon is I'm going to Norway to work on some music with somebody that follows me on Twitch.
Whoa!
Yeah, so I'm going for 2 weeks, and
who over there is it Confucius?
No,
Norway.
His name is Lars. He goes as Lars Making Music on Twitch, and
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he makes pop music, man. It's sick. So I'm really excited to go over there, and we've started doing some collaboration online where we're just kind of bouncing the same session back and forth, trying to figure out a workflow so that once I get over there that we can just hit the ground running. I'm really excited about it, man.
Are you bringing any tools with you?
I chatted with him about what he has. I need a keyboard to really feel like I'm useful in the studio. I might bring my Digitact. He has a keyboard. He has all kinds of stuff. And I don't know, last time we talked, I think I was kind of making the change over to Ableton. And at this point, I'm just completely in Ableton unless it's an old session.
Yeah, I've noticed that you're 100% Ableton. So what's actually, before we get to talking about that, you have an opportunity to go to Norway to work with a musician on music production.
There would be at least a 40% chance his name would be Lars, but yes, continue.
What is the piece of gear that you have to bring?
Ooh.
It would be Digitact.
It would also be Digitact.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that's one of those things, like, bringing something that's culturally relevant to that country where it comes from, but I'm not thinking in that way. I'm just thinking purely utilitarian. That would be the tool that I would reach for.
A Guns N' Roses shirt.
Yeah, it's just there's a coincidental, perhaps even a little ironic.
Like he might see bring a Digitact and be like,
yeah, like, oh, really, guy, really, but. Yeah, they're like Gothenburg's right over there, but no, it's just the most versatile thing that I can use to make whatever.
Yeah, dude, the Digitact it just sounds how it's supposed to sound, man. I don't even know how to explain it really. It's just one of those things that, like, once you wrap your head around what you can do on it, it can't do everything, but that's what's so good about it.
It's just a little Swiss Army knife, or Swedish Army knife, as it were.
Swedish Army knife. It's the Swedish Army knife, yeah. All right, chat, what would you bring? Answer the question. Do it now. Do it now or I send you to Gulag. No, just kidding. We're not doing the Gulag this week. That was pretty wild, but we are going to cover a little bit of history. We'll get to that a little bit later. Let's see. What would I bring with me if I were going to Norway? I only had one item I could bring. Bring an OB6. I'm going for tone, guys.
That's a lot, though. I mean, bringing that bad boy, that's a lot.
I have the desktop version.
Oh, okay.
So it's not that much bigger than a Deluge. It's probably about twice the size.
Yeah.
Way more portable to bring in the whole keyboard, though.
I might bring the Minotaur as well. It's so small, and you can, put a sock around it and tuck it into the suitcase, and it travels pretty easy and nice.
Yeah. Minotaur is a mighty resilient item.
The other thing too with my Digitact is I built the internal battery for it. So for the flight, I can use it on the flight and stuff like that too.
Wait, what?
I built an internal battery for it. I don't know. They talk about it on the Digitact Facebook group quite a bit.
It's funny. We were just talking about that last night in Discord. I went and opened up mine, measured the internals, figured out exactly how much space there was. I can fit roughly 7 amp hours in there. Which would at 7 volts, which would power that 7.2 volts, which would power that thing for 7 to 10 hours. So
hell yeah, mine runs about 4.5. And what's really cool about it too, with the way that it's set up, I built a jumper cable, and I can also power the Digatone with it as well. So that's pretty cool. Part of the reason I built the battery is I went on a 2-week road trip with my dad in November. We went from Seattle all the way down through all the national parks in California, Death Valley, and then we went down through, we actually went all the way down to Tucson and then back up through Utah and all the national parks in Utah. And part of what I wanted to be able to do was have this portable music rig and then like set up in some of these beautiful places and make music. One of the only places I ended up doing that was in Yosemite. Partially because I think kind of we were on the road most of the time, but that little setup is really fun. And then I had the key step as well, and then I just powered that with a phone charger brick, and that's a nice fun little setup. And I get about 2 to 2.5 hours with them working together of music. So it's pretty fun.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
A battery powered Digitech is awesome. That is an idea with legs.
Yeah,
Doug says that he would rather bring an analog rhythm and AR-MK2 better than Digitech because you get individual outputs from it, thus making mixing easier. Well, I mean, maybe. I think the case for the AR is if you wanted to have that sound, kind of like I chose the OB6. Not really the mixing because you're going to a studio, right? this guy Lars, I assume, has a studio. He's got some gear you're gonna be able to use to do a lot of like the basic functions and even some really creative stuff. So the idea here isn't to bring necessarily like something that is super capable, but rather something that is either super personal to you or has like a tone that you really identify with and want to be able to bring with you and bring across in places.
And the overbridge works like beyond brilliantly on the Dig Attack as well.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys have used overbridge at all, but I mean, it's insane to me that it's its own. I mean, it's just its own interface. That's so crazy to me, you know.
Yep.
And you can bus those in different ways. Like there's a little bit of flexibility to the busing on the Ableton side. So is an overbridge even out of beta yet? Yeah, I think it's still technically beta, but dude,
it works.
It runs at like 0 latency. It's kind of insane, dude.
And to address what you're saying, Doug, like with the analog rhythm, sure, you get some separate outs. But on Digitact, you get all 8 tracks, like as separate outs in the DAW directly.
Yeah.
Like sure.
And then you can also set it up to have your FX bus, or you can have your mix bus, and if you wanted just your mix bus, the way that you're hearing it off the thing. So I don't know. There's just so much flexibility there.
Yeah.
So I don't have overbridge. It's not made on my one piece of Electron gear. Well, I have 2, but the ones that pedal really, which is Octatrack. So I don't have exposure to overbridge. It looks really pimp though. But I have heard, and maybe you guys can confirm that it's buggy. I've heard that it can crash a lot.
I mean,
that just
fucking Ableton crashes. Ableton crashes twice a day, dude. I don't know. To be honest,
Ableton does crash, but you know what? It never crashes when I'm actually doing something important in it. It only crashes if I start up and then I'm like changing cables around.
I've pushed overbridge pretty hard. I've never had a crash. I've read that in forums as well, but I remember the first day that I got it up and running, and I was like, "This is insane!" Like it's so nice, dude.
Cool.
So,
hey, Doug, all right. I have a feeling that installing overbridge won't be a problem. Hate to stereotype, but I'm thinking a Swedish pop musician. There's a very good chance that he's got overbridge installed, and if not, I don't think he'd be terribly against it.
You're getting the region right. I mean, they're Scandinavian, but the Norwegians are definitely a different people.
That's an ongoing joke with us. I'm always like, and this is Lars from Switzerland.
Just like everybody
loves it.
He loves cocoa and wears snowshoes. These are the stereotypes.
What's funny is I think we are gonna go skiing, and for me that means that I'm gonna just power pizza down the bunny hill the whole time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. The bunny hills. I don't know what they're actually like in Norway. I mean, it's not like you're in the Swiss Alps. I don't know if Norway has. Well, they did host the Winter Olympics, so they got to have something cool going on, right?
I don't know.
They don't let you just host it for nothing, or maybe it's just.
I just like going and stomping around in the mountains. Okay, I have a question for you guys.
Yeah, fire away.
Where is the most beautiful place that you've ever been?
Oh, that's tough. Because I think one of mine is definitely cliche, but it's really beautiful.
Yeah, cliche is totally fine. Mine's kind of cliche too. So
yeah, mine was probably Maui, beaches of like Hana. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the. I've been there a couple of times. It's beautiful there.
It's one of those things. Like it's not super nice. There are nicer places on the island, but I think it's the combination of when you make the trek to Hana. It's taxing and it's nerve-wracking. And
did you go to the Black Sand Beach?
I did.
That's like
oh my god, dude! that whole thing was just me going what, and just occasionally snapping a picture. And that little cave where the little like surf inlet. Oh my god. Yeah.
Dude, I went out and I went into the waves there, and I remember coming out and I'm like sitting in the car, and then it was later. I put my bathing suit on later, and my pockets were full of black sand, like just because I'd been out in the water and they'd washed into my pockets. So that was hilarious. How about you, Dan?
And this is gonna suck. It's so probably like the Grand Canyon or Sedona. I haven't been anywhere like outside of this hemisphere, and I feel bad about that. I want to explore the world, but like by the time I could swing it, we were like having kids, and then it just never really happened. And
Oh man, the Grand Canyon is unbelievably beautiful, though.
It's totally gorgeous. I used to live in Arizona, and I did not like living in Arizona for many reasons, but one of the reasons I really liked it was I looked at a mountain every day as I worked. Yeah. And my backyard backed up to a desert. Like where I live right now, my backyard backs up to other houses, and then there's a road, and then there's a data center, and then there's another development, and it's like that forever out here, right? Mm-hmm. Strip malls and actual malls and business parks, and that's just life around here. And there's a small forest preserve, and it's like 200 acres. Wow, that's amazing, right? When I lived in Arizona, my house backed up to the desert, right? On the other side of my house was several hundred miles before you hit another anything. I was right there. That was just so crazy to me. And so living in Arizona was already 10,000 steps above what I'm used to as far as natural beauty. And then the Grand Canyon just took it home. I mean, it's just like hard to beat. When you see it, you don't realize just how big it is until you actually get there.
Did you make it up to Grand Escalante or to Bryce Canyon or Zion or anything?
Yeah, I've done Bryce. I've done Zion. I did not, to SenseNet, I did not do the Skywalk. We did not go to the Yavasupai part of it, but that looks really quite incredible. Not going to lie, I really wish I would have done that, and we'll probably end up going back because we still have family that lives there, and that's the goal, is to get to that part of the Grand Canyon. We went to Grand Canyon State Park. People, I mean, you think of the Grand Canyon in your head, you normally picture the state park, the national park, Grand Canyon Park. But there's a whole other section. It's a huge canyon, right? And it is the Yavasupai section, and it's run by the Yavasupai Indians, and there's different trails, and there's a lot of different things to see there. And one thing they built was the Skywalk, which is literally this, not a bridge, but it goes out like several hundred feet over the Grand Canyon. And underneath you're like 3 Sears towers is above the ground at one point. That's how freaking high up you are, and it's glass. And some people like can't even make it more than like a foot out there, and they have to run back.
Did you go out on it?
Well, no, I didn't do it.
Oh,
we went to the other part of the Grand Canyon.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. Because you have to go like a little further south. Yeah. When we went to the Grand Canyon, I don't think, we didn't go down that way. But yeah, people always say that it's pretty crazy and cool there.
I've done Hoover Dam, but I did it before they built the bridge. So you guys know about this? Hoover Dam, you used to be able to drive over it, but then they became worried about like terrorism and post 9/11 world. So they built a bridge that goes over Hoover Dam. So there's Hoover Dam, and there's another bridge that goes over Hoover Dam, and that's the thing you drive on now. So I went to Hoover Dam when you actually drove over it. That was pretty cool. I did a decent amount of stuff in America. Grand Canyon was the best. I can't wait until my kids can hang out in the car while we drive places, because that's the vacations I'm planning on taking. Right now, my vacations are like, we go to like Disney a lot, right? They want to see that kind of stuff. But as soon as we can, we're going to go in the car, and I'm going to drive for 10 hours a day until we get somewhere really unique. And then we're going to walk, we're going to hike, we're going to see stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, interesting question. Now, as far as doing that and trying to tie it into like music, I brought my electric bass when I was a kid, and I went on those kind of trips with my family. And so I was totally lame, and I would while everyone would be like, making s'mores and playing board games, I would be like in the camper, like doing exercises on the bass. That's how fucking stupid I was. So I don't know. I guess I always was built to be this way, but it was still pretty cool.
That's awesome, though. I love it.
Yeah, I had a 6-string bass, like Les Claypool.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Dude, Les Claypool's a boss, man.
I still have a 6-string bass. It's absolutely absurd. I don't know why I played this thing. This thing's heavy, man. This bass, I don't even play it anymore because every time I even think about playing it, I'm like, I really want to like hold on to that thing for an hour. Because this thing, I mean, it's a nice one. It's an ESP. And it is neck through. It has gorgeous tone. You don't have to even adjust the neck. The action on it's great. It weighs like 10 pounds more and it's full 24 frets than my other basses. So like after an hour of playing it, you're legitimately exhausted. I should play more bass. I love it.
Yeah, playing bass is really fun. I played bass in a band when I was like 24, 25 for a really short period of time. And it was the only time that I played bass, but I always used to eat like a piece of fruit during our rehearsals, and then I'd put the little fruit stickers on my bass, so then it became the sticker bass, and then still got fruit stickers all over it.
Hey, cool. You still got it?
Yeah, it's this one.
There?
Yeah, that guy back there.
Is that a jazz bass?
It's a P bass.
P bass.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I've
Bass.
always gravitated towards the more kind of subby type bass tones. I prefer them because I think it gives a lot more space for other things within a mix. So
Dave's Real Dad has a picture of Dave making music in Yosemite. Hey, Dave's Real Dad, I don't suppose that's digital and you could send it to us so we could put it on stream, because that would be awesome if somehow during this stream we could make that happen. That would be absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, Dad, you can send it to me. I send it over to them.
So the I don't have a P bass. I think P basses are great. I have an acoustic, I have the 6-string, and then I used to play a lot. I used to play on my streams. I have this is Music Man.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the opposite of a P bass, that's for sure.
For me,
I like the punchy action.
The best bass is the Minotaur. There's no question about that in my mind.
The Moog Minotaur?
Yeah.
It's got great action. It really does.
It's so disgusting, dude. It's one of those instruments that when I play it, it never feels wrong. You know what I mean? Like some synthesizers, they got that sweet spot. That thing, it's sweet. It just does, like, you have to try hard to make a bad sound on it, kind of, to me.
Many synthesizers, including that behemoth behind you, give you so many options that you can make it bad.
Yeah. Oh,
Not
this
the
guy
Minotaur.
here?
Yeah.
Well, dude, I think the sweet spot of the Matrix Brute is pretty small.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, like if I were to say with the Minotaur, I'd say the Minotaur is like 95 or 98% of the sounds that you're going to make on it, you're going to be fine, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I would think that with the Matrix Brute, I'd say it's really pretty low, like 35, 45%, somewhere in there. Yeah. Where like you got to work pretty hard if you want to find some good sounds. It's very easy to make some like pretty abhorrent sounds on it. I mean, it's just the truth of it. I also think like a year ago I was like, you know, I didn't know what I was doing with it. I think, you know, I don't know. You learn more and more and more and more about synthesizer stuff, and eventually there's that moment where everything kind of clicks and every knob makes sense, and it, you know, you kind of know where things are and what kind of sounds you like and what kind of sounds you want to get.
It's like day one of Digitone when you decide to step out of the presets.
You know, it's funny that you talk about the Digitone, because it's like I think its superpower is the presets, because I think once you start, I'm not sure how you could dig into making FM synthesis and be like clear about what you're making without it being just a purely explorative effort.
I think that's it. And I think that might be instrument dependent. So like I can get into FM8 with a goal and get there, but like FM8, everything is there. Like it leaves nothing to chance. You can route everything to everything. And sure, it's complicated, but like if you take the time to just kind of work it out, you'd be all right. With the Digitone, because, you know, it's like, here's a couple of preset algorithms, and then here's a couple of knobs and envelopes. Good luck. And yeah, there is like a big, you know, wall of, I need to learn just how the hell this thing responds to certain things. But now I can turn it on. I can start with a clear init patch. It's just, you know, a sine wave, and then go. and get something really nice. And it's not guesswork. Yes, it's partially guesswork still. There's a little bit of dark magic to it, but when I want to make something more plucky, or I want to make something softer or more pad-like, I can do that, and that's really satisfying.
It's all about practice. I mean, it's like anything else, and there's a chance that the reason why we think FM is harder than subtractive is because
It is.
a lot more experience with subtractive. I'm not sure that it technically is. I think we spend a lot more time.
It's less
subtractive.
obvious, or not obvious. It's less straightforward.
Because the thing about FM is it's the thing that gets me is you kind of know where you want to be at the end. So you need to get there, right? If you're going to hit a note, that's like the last operator, and that's the last thing that's going to be working, and that's going to be the base frequency. That's going to be your fundamental. And so you can't do that until you've gotten everything else done on the way there, and then it just needs to all click into place. So to some degree, you have to be able to think backwards a little bit in order to get there. But once you do that and you get used to how the operators work off of each other, I don't think it's that hard. I think for me, it's just all about the amount of time spent on it is dwarfed by the amount of time I spend on other things. What do we got here?
So this is just a little video cut together. I honestly wasn't shooting video for anything to release, but this was just some video that I put together of Yosemite and getting to make some music out there. It's pretty cool. I don't know if you guys have been there, but this rock wall that you're seeing right there is I think that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
It's up there.
It's 3,000 feet high. It's taller than the tallest building in the world.
Yeah, that's one. Driving the north route to Burning Man from inside of California, which you basically hook across almost the top edge of California. That was one of those. It's similar landscape to this, but just these vast sweeping valleys of just mountains and seas of forests. That was one. That desert up there, that's one. It's just, I don't know, there's something really shockingly beautiful about it, where you're just, especially during a sunset or sunrise.
This video is great. So you set up your battery rig.
This is just my little battery rig. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then that's Half Dome in the background, and I shot a time lapse of the sunset against it while we were sitting in the valley, just making music, and yeah, it was fun.
By the way,
cool.
Wambra, I think I did see that. Weren't his hands getting cut? Wasn't that the main thing slowing him down? Was he kept on waiting for it to heal, and then he'd move a few feet near the end because it was very hard to hold on? I think it was last year. I have a friend who's really into climbing, and he
Alex Honnold did cut his hands when he free soloed El Capitan. He's pretty careful with cutting your hands. And I watched that free solo, I don't know, in November or something. And I watched so many interviews with him because he's a fascinating person. I mean, the lifestyle that he lives, and I mean, I would consider him to be somebody that's probably is a Zen master of some kind, but he talks about cutting your hands. Somebody asked him that question, and he said that really experienced climbers don't. It's all technique, and if you're cutting your hands, you're not. It's probably because your experience level isn't very high.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So no, he didn't cut his hands.
He freaked out on Half Dome, according to Wambra.
He did freak. He did. He apparently he talks about it. When he free soloed Half Dome, which was several years ago, he got close to the final pitch, and there was a moment where he wasn't sure he could push himself up, that there was a foothold that he just wasn't confident on. And one of the things that he talks about a ton with that is that he didn't feel like he had prepared enough, that really he just one day was okay, I'm going to go climb that. And I think they rope climbed the route that he was going to do the day before, and he was it'll be fine, whatever. But he didn't feel like he had done all of the mental preparation that was needed for it. And one other thing he did when he was on Half Dome is that he chose a totally different route that they didn't do on the rope climb. That he was yeah, that's the hardest part of the route. I know generally over that way there's a route that I could do. He had never done it before, so he kind of got lost on the side of this 2,000 foot rock face.
Sheer rock face. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay, so that's nuts.
yeah, so he did that several years before he did El Cap, and then he very aggressively mentally prepared for El Cap, and you know he said what it's like, because it's all muscle memory. It ends up being all muscle memory. I mean, just in the same way that us as musicians, you know, we learn how to play piano, or we learn how to play bass, or you know how to spin records and find that thing. Is that it was all it was like choreography, that all the hard parts, anything that was of you know extreme technical difficulty, it was all there already, muscle memory wise.
His fingers had done it during the rope climb, and so he knew exactly what he needed to get done.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that the free climbers typically went up before that using rope. So they're still like free climbing, but they have rope for safety. That's the difference, right?
Yeah. So my understanding is that free climbing is climbing with, maybe you have a rope, but you're only climbing with your hands and feet. So you're using the rope only for safety. There's another style of climbing where you can like use the rope to, you know, bring yourself up the side of things, or even like hitting, you know, putting a something in the side of the mountain that you can use to then push yourself up or whatever.
And then you can use that as a foothold. And
yeah, but free climbing is just your hands and feet, and you can use a rope for safety. And then free solo is when it's without the any rope or anything.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Is that the one? Does he free solo or is he free climb?
Free solo, yeah, and free climbing.
Okay.
The thing that he did on El Capitan is that he free soloed it, and is the only person that's done it.
It's nuts. You have to be almost like those guys. I mean, about once a year, I hear about someone in that world dying.
Yeah, I mean, I think rock climbing in general is incredibly dangerous. I think mountaineering is incredibly dangerous. Free soloing is as well. Alex, that's one of the main questions any of the interviews that I watched asked him, like almost to the point where I think he kind of gets tired of people asking him. But you can tell with him, there's a compartmentalization of that fear, you know, and I think it's similar to like if you think about a musician that's incredibly good at performing on stage. I think they're able to compartmentalize any of that, you know, that anxiety that some of us get. Like I have a large level of anxiety. That's why I don't really perform a lot. You know, it's tough for me, but I think that's you know, that's one of the main ways to do it, is to figure out ways to compartmentalize it. And the other thing is to over prepare. And if you've over prepared, then when you're in those moments that muscle memory needs to take over, it takes over and you can trust it. So yeah.
So one more thing to share. Again, everything I know about rock climbing is because my friend Jason Poor Boots is rock climber. He posts a lot about it.
Cool.
He does ice climbing, and he said that beginner ice climbers all have the same experience. It's something called the screaming barfies, which is exactly what it sounds like. So if it's your first time ice climbing, there's an almost definite chance that you're going to get the screaming barfies. Womber, we are going to cover Behringer. There's a little bit of Behringer stuff to cover. I posted up a video. We can pivot off of rock climbing. Rock climbing is, by the way, totally awesome. It's a testament to humanity that we have people who look at nature and conquer it that way. It's terrifying and it's victorious and it's absolutely amazing and beautiful and all these things.
Can I say one thing about that?
Yeah.
Just rock climbing. I for several years now, I've been fascinated with mountaineering and high altitude mountain climbing. I'm sure we talked about it in one of the last podcasts I was on. And rock climbing, I've been getting into probably since November. But I think that there's a really distinct analog between rock climbers and the mentality of rock climbing and the development of technique that I think is really similar to becoming a music creator. And I think there's a lot that we can learn in these cross disciplines. One other one I talk about a lot is skateboarding. I think that the way that the creativity is used in skateboarding is similar, but I think there's something really beautiful about rock climbing, and it's you know, how you can approach some of the things in music in a similar way that you can with with rock climbing. And one of those, and this again was from many of the interviews that I've watched of Alex Honnold, he keeps a journal of all of the climbs that he does, and he's very meticulous with how he develops his techniques, and he talks about technique a lot. And so those are two things that I've been personally working on for about the last 3-4 months now, is I've been keeping a music journal. And with that one, it's mostly like kind of just stream of consciousness. There are some things from rock climbing journals that I've found that I use in my own music journal. And then the other one is a process for a daily to-do list of sorts that is specific to developing technique, which I think is something that is easy to ignore for an extended period of time, that like will make you kind of get into that. We, as any creators, gotten into that headspace of feeling stagnant or feeling stuck or not sure where to go next. And I think these lists and then being able to approach these daily to-dos is something that I've been incredibly excited about. And honestly, if I hadn't been watching all of these videos of Alex Honnold and rock climbing and all these things, I'm not sure that are things that I would be approaching in quite the same way. Okay,
That's awesome.
That's it. That's my speech.
No, there's something to it. You spend not you, the proverbial you, all your free time in the studio. You don't bring in additional influences. It's hard to grow, right? Because it just becomes recursive. Like, are you going to be like, digitone is an inspiring instrument, and it will inspire you, and you'll play it, and you'll create a feedback loop with it. But if you're not getting other new experiences in, Cole goes to Burning Man every year and comes back with a million new creative ideas, whether he likes it or not. His brain's just going because of what he's seen and what's happened. And if you fill up your external world with these kind of experiences, these emotions, being inspired, then that makes the music better, because that's how you avoid making music that is just a technical test, right? If it's all just literally just, hey, I'm on the gear and I'm working on the gear and I'm learning about the gear and I'm playing the gear, it just then becomes just the gear does the gear, and hey, look what I made the gear do, and that's cool. But that's not what the best music is. At least in my opinion, the best music has some kind of emotion, has something that it's about. There's something that it circles around, and to do that, I think that your point is totally salient. Getting really into something like rock climbing and feeling a resonance between it and music, and letting what you experience there inspire you is, I think, a great way to grow as an artist too. It doesn't need to be like a direct growth. Mm-hmm. It can be about, being a more well-rounded person altogether.
Yeah. And one of the things that I did is I've been working on these lists of things that I feel like I'm really good at, very proficient at, and then things that I would like to be better at that I'm not as proficient at. And these are technical skills. And then it's easy to kind of take a look at those of the list of fucking 500 things that I wish I was better at. And then I can kind of, start to create a hierarchy of things that I want to work on within that. That's great. It keeps me, I feel like that's been keeping me very focused lately. And I like that a lot. Right now I'm working on major block chords.
Major block chords, huh?
Yep.
Everyone knows all about major block chords, but explain it for everyone anyway.
It's kind of old school jazz voicings, and it's a way to perform like harmony solis all on the piano, and they also call it lock chords, but basically you it has a very like 20s and 30s kind of piano player sort of sound to it, but I've been feeling like within my own harmony game has been feeling stuck within a certain set of voicings that my hands naturally kind of gravitate towards. And so I wanted to kind of try to break out of that. And this is my approach at trying to do that. And it's been fun working on them.
Ableton has helped me with that a lot, actually. Ableton Push has really helped me with that a lot.
Cool.
because you could do this really cool thing in it that I haven't been able to. So, okay, being able to limit down to scale, the cheat mode, so to speak. It kind of, yeah, but here, and then one of the big knocks on it, at least to me, is that in some ways it can limit you. You select the scale, you select the key, now everything plays in those keys. Well, the baddest fucking moment in music is when you're not in key, when you hit an accidental and it's just that perfect moment. You hit that accidental and it creates that anticipation of resolve back into the key. And you basically lock yourself out of that. Push lets you pick the key but stay in chromatic, so it lights it up, but it still gives you access to, although they're unlit, you can play any accidentals. So by performing that way, it allows you, if you're not proficient on piano, to still really be able to hit a key and play and find comfort zone that way, but still be able to move right out of your comfort zone very quickly and seamlessly. And the more you do it, the less you even notice that it's happening. So that's been part of my experience with push lately.
Dude, the push is awesome. I think it's such a cool way to be able to break outside of certain set shapes or this, like muscle memory restrictions that playing a traditional instrument gets you into. I think that's pretty cool.
It has
also
different sequencers on it, so it lets you really approach it in different ways.
Yeah, I was listening, I've been listening to the Audio Files podcast. Have you guys listened to that at all?
I have not.
With Jamie Liddell.
What's the what's the topic?
He generally interviews musicians. He's a musician himself. He's from I think from the UK somewhere. He's got a British accent, but he lives in Nashville now, and he's a songwriter, and I think he writes for some films and stuff like that. But he his approach to the podcast is the first 35 minutes or so he explores some very small idea, like delay or like something within, like one of them he made the 808 cowbell on modular gear, stuff like that. But the way that he breaks it up into those really small minuscule parts of the creative structure, it's really fun to listen to. And then he'll have an interview with somebody, a lot of really underground people, but I really like the conversations that he has. It'd be something that I would really highly recommend. But something he talked about, and this kind of goes to what you were talking about, Dan, with the accidentals, and something I love is extended harmony, building on sevenths and ninths and so on. And I think about that stuff a lot. And he called those extensions decorations. And I thought that was just such an interesting way to look at extensions as decorations, where you have a C major chord and then you add let's say an A to it. That sixth is a decoration. I just really love that concept. I just think that's cool. Anyway,
because once you get beyond the fifth, that seventh, that ninth, I mean, the seventh is only a half step away usually from resolving straight to the octave. If you're thinking about it in purely harmonic terms, it's not terribly useful. It's also usually pretty dissonant. But if you voice it correctly, so the seventh isn't a hugely dominant chord, it just kind of adds to the timbre, almost like you're doing voice design as opposed to having four notes hit real hard and heavy. It can add, it can decorate it, and it can add feel to it. I do have a hard time getting past fifths. I have to push myself. I'm pretty good with inversions. That's not an issue. It's
different voicings, yeah.
And I think part of it boils down to the sounds I make are very thick anyway. So once I go into chords, they need to be able to lay off of each other a little bit. And once I get to seventh, and you have the first chord that is by definition introducing dissonance. I mean, maybe I'm doing a triad somewhere in there earlier, but if I'm hitting sevenths, or ninths, I'm right on top of the root note, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're using a big thick synth patch, it's just going to sound like crap. It's taking up too much space with the dissonance.
Yeah, or you have to work hard to make it work in a way that is successful within the music itself. I totally get that.
Yeah, you can voice it differently. You can design a patch that has a 12 decibel slope on a high pass that allows you to really thin it out. That way, when you're playing, it's not overbearing, and then you have to have something else be a little bit more focused in on the bass. And so if you voice it that way, I think you're gonna be a little bit more successful. At least that's
one thing I like to use a lot is major seventh chords. It's something within my own music that I probably will never go away from. And I think a big part of that is almost to the opposite side of what you're talking about the thickness. It's like the instability of a major seventh chord. Like, it's a major chord, but it also feels really uneasy in a way that it could go anywhere, but it also could feel like home base. I love that about those chords, and I'll work within. I'll go way outside of the key, but using major seventh chords to move, and then build over that maybe some simple minor pentatonic melody that fits over all of those chords, because I like that uneasiness and I like that thickness. It's funny, we were talking about the major block chords, and part of the way that that's built is with major six chords instead of major seventh chords. And it has that, if you listen to a major six chord, it has that much more sort of old-timey kind of sound, but also that six as
up a little more
as a decoration feels more like home base, whereas that major seven 100% feels uneasy and relatively dissonant and unstable.
Yeah, because even though it's major, so major seventh it's a major third, a minor third, a major third, and then another major third, or is it another?
No, you did it.
Okay.
A major third, a minor third, a major third.
Major third, minor third, major third.
Yeah.
Which means that if you invert it, you have major third, minor third. Which means that really, if you invert it, you're talking about an augmented fundamental. You have if you invert it so that you're starting on the first third, or no, you have a diminished.
No, yeah, you
fundamental. It's the second inversion that gets you to an augmented chord. When you go,
you don't have an augmented chord.
There's an augmented chord there. You can do major. So if you start on the fifth, so you go fifth to root to third, it's an augmented.
But that fifth to the root is a fourth. Yeah, you don't ever have an augmented chord. It's the distance between the root and the seventh.
Yeah, that's what really brings it up.
Yeah,
because you can make them harmonically fit very easily otherwise.
Yeah.
And typically, I find myself when I'm using things that are more dissonant anyway, I'm usually being a little bit more monophonic altogether. Like bass lines, I'll throw pentatonic, or I'll throw triad in there on bass lines. That's no problem. If I'm doing, chording, I typically don't go there because it's so hard to make it all fit. It just starts fighting for space. It's the same thing if you think, if you're doing a mix down, you're just talking about frequency allocation. You want to make sure that two things don't have the same exact sub-bass frequencies, or else it's just going to be a muddy mess, for example.
Hey, real quick, the Audiophiles podcast, does that have 3 episodes currently?
No, there should be some 60 plus.
Okay.
Here, I'll find it for you. Yeah, Jamie Liddell audio. Let's see, podcast.
Doug, I really don't know. I took it in college, like 20 years ago. I retained what I retained. The thing about music theory is it's all based off of Bach's fugues, right? Music theory is really like just a study of what he did when he developed equal temperament and he wrote the fugues. And so he developed a list of rules for his exact style. It's like saying in order to make house music, you put a kick on on the front of every bar. So what you end up with is really learning what worked for him, and that worked for the fundamentals of Western civilization's 12-tone scales. But then, like he sets out rules, like you can't have parallel fifths. Well, fuck you, Bach. I'm using parallel fifths. I don't care. I'm doing it.
Thank you, David Miner. I found it.
But the concept is then that you want to learn the rules because you're a nerd. I'm a nerd. I love that shit. I want to learn all about it. But then also so you can like deliberately break them and sometimes find creativity that way.
Yeah, rules are just tools. That's all they are. They're just tools, and the more tools that you can add to your tool chest, the more things that you will find that you are able and capable of doing. And a lot of what a tool is goes back to that idea of muscle memory. Even those theoretical ideas, that's also muscle memory, and those are the things that you as a person, the proverbial you, are going to go back to. I think music theory,
add it to your muscle. You teach your fingers what to do, and that becomes your voice.
Exactly.
But you can perform that. Say you want to be able to be a jazzy player, you want to do house music. You learn what the rules are for those things, and you practice them and get good at them, and then they become part of your voice. And then what you do in addition to that subset of style, if you just follow a style guide and make a track, it's going to be this soulless, heartless exercise in pedantically copying things that other people.
Which is fine.
do.
That's a great way to learn. I mean, one of my favorite ways to learn is if there's like a pop track that I really like and I'm not really sure what they're doing within the track, I'll rip it. I'll throw it into. I used to do this a lot when I was working in Logic. I'll throw it into Logic, and then I'd map out what the tempo was, and then I'd cut that piece up into, okay, this is the intro, this is the verse, this is the pre-chorus, this is the chorus, this is a post-chorus, and so on and so forth. And I'd cut them up into different sections. I'd make sure I tempo mapped it so I knew what was going on with the tempo map. And it's really interesting. You learn, oh, they totally tempo mapped this. This is a pop song, but the chorus is 3 clicks faster than the verses. I'd see that all the time, more than you'd think that you would see that. Then you'd be like, oh, the beat is a 2-bar, is just a 2-bar repeating beat, is literally the same throughout, and they just like took out the guitar for some reason in the hook or whatever. And that's a really fun way to start kind of understanding form. Totally boring, and
that's a great idea though. That's probably the biggest one I struggle with is like structure.
Form is so important.
yeah, just kind of getting a reference, or even taking a step further, like you're saying, take it apart and really like see what all those makes the individual components tick and how they fit together. That's cool.
Yeah, and
learning the elements of style.
Also, that Hanging Out with Audiophiles podcast, pretty badass guests.
Yeah,
I downloaded about 7 episodes, so fantastic. Thank you.
The machine drum one is the very first one I listened to.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely worth listening to. I'm in the middle of the most recent one, the Local Natives one.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Really, really, really good. Yeah. Anyway.
Do you have a machine drum?
I do not know.
I want to ask someone a question.
Oh, about machine drum? No, I have a Digitact and a Digatone from Electron.
Gotcha. I love my push. Don't get me wrong. It does this awesome thing with the native Ableton instruments. It has like direct graphical integration. So whereas if you load a VST, it'll show you knob values, but it's just like generic. If you load something from Ableton, it'll like bring up like in Echo, it brings up an animation of the cavern that you're creating echoes within. That's
sick.
It's totally sick. And an operator, it's so
dope.
It's so integrated that on operator, it's the first time I've ever personally, and I maybe you guys with digitones feel different. It's the first time I've personally used something on hardware for FM that I felt that connected to. It's just such a brilliant. And so what I wanted to know. So anybody in chat who has it, let me know. Does the Machine MK3 have that same kind of like direct graphical integration on itself for using Nave Instruments specific VSTs?
I don't know about.
I'm really interested in finding out about that.
I don't know about the 3, and I don't think it does like animations. I mean, it's all color screens and everything, but at least with the 2, which by today's standards is super rudimentary. When you like focus on a VST, whether it's already loaded or you're loading it, like those screens turn into the VST. Like all of the important functions are mapped or are just a quick little shift button away. Like, yeah, it same general ethos, and it does make things very jammable. Like, I just kind of fired up a VST, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, I just play it. Like, just works. You just play the VST. Oh, I want to change this parameter. Oh, right, it's right there. And I'm sure it's a lot easier on the Mark III with it being color and actually having graphics rather than just this like funky dot matrix display.
That's the best thing about these integrated controllers is they're able to pull things like that off. It really does connect inspiration up very much more quickly to me than some controllers in the past have.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Oh, I 100% agree. That's one of the big reasons I moved over to Ableton too, is I felt like it was just the integration stuff. It makes it so fast and so easy to make music.
On Ableton, it's like you have a damn fine functional DAW and you have that integration. With the Machine, it's like, it's cool in that it's kind of portable, so you can be in Ableton with a Machine and fire up an NI VST and it feels very native. But have you tried to work in Machine? Like, it's not awesome. Like, it's a really cool program, but I think just for more general use, it's not as easy to work with.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. I mean, my setup for a long time was Logic and Machine, and I really liked using Machine for its sampler.
Yes.
And building drum machines in
for
it.
kind of pattern jamming a bit and building those things up. It's really awesome at that.
Yeah, but I don't make like really sample based hip hop and I don't make really sample based music, which I think Machine is kind of stealing from that MPC ethos. And it kind of does it in its own way. And I think for guys that are making music like that, I think Machine is perfect. Yep. And it's Machine is, I think, another one of those ones too that it does like 27% of what Ableton can do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And there's just so many times I was in Machine and I was like, really, it doesn't do that?
Yeah, or it does it, but you have to jump through these giant hoops because it really wasn't designed to do that first. And like the things that it is designed to do first, it does really well. Like, it's really cool how some of those things fit together. But yeah, it feels it's not, when I sit down in front of FL or Ableton or anything like that, that's a different experience, or Logic even. It's a different experience. It feels more like this is a place where I can write some music and edit music and do all the things I need to do.
Going from the Machine workflow and then going into Ableton, the drum rack alone to me is worth that $800 for Ableton. The drum rack alone, its sophistication is equal to that of Machine in its entirety, in my opinion.
What's interesting about the drum rack is it's just more like I really just realized that this pass through when I got really back in Ableton. The drum rack is just more mixer channels, and then it just you pick the one note you're going to play. That's it. Yep. And then it folds it into one interface that looks like pads. That's it.
Yep. It's sampler or simpler or just on single pads. And then
not even that. You can load a VST into a pad.
Yeah.
You make a drum sound on Pigments. You can load that into one of the pads in drum rack, and then you literally just pick what note you want to hit, and then that's just all it triggers off of.
Yep.
It has all the same benefits of being in the drum rack, and you can still do sends all you want, and you can set up multiple buses because it is also in a mixer, and you can explode out the mixer and look at the whole thing. Man, you can save. You can build a drum rack that has 10 different VSTs and simplers and
put VSTs in it. So okay, you're saying it's just kind of an extension of the mixing, the mix bus. That's cool.
So that's the main mixer in session view. If you just took like, here's a simpler, here's FM8, here's Pigments, here's something else. But then instead of viewing it that way, you just wanted to push it in and then just pick what note it is assigned to. That's all drum rack is. And you can even extend out drum rack so that it shows itself in session view that way.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that. Yeah.
It's wild. And so they basically figured out this incredibly innovative thing using the stuff they already had. The only thing they really added was the ability to limit it to respond to only one note. That's it.
Yeah. And I just love how it's laid out, man. It's just so easy to use.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big fan. So yeah, whenever I catch your streams now lately, you're in Ableton, and I think you have like the opacity set on your OBS, so you're ghostly behind it.
Yeah, that was my wife's idea, man. She was, because I've been thinking about DAW layouts.
It's tough.
For streams. It just is like we've all kind of gravitated towards that, like a single webcam with the box around it with our name on it or whatever, kind of in the corner like a gamer does. And it just doesn't really look that great, and it's always hiding something. I think like being able to show the DAW is being able to see the details. If you can't see the details, don't show the DAW, because like there's not enough visual movement for that to really be that interesting. Mm-hmm. So then, you got to think like the people that are watching this are other producers that maybe are trying to, get something out of this. And so that's, I thought that was a good compromise with the kind of the ghostly thing behind, where it's pulled back a lot, but then you can still see all the details of what I'm doing within the thing. So it's kind of the interest of the movement of whatever I'm doing, plus being able to see what I'm doing in the DAW. That's at least my hope.
And that's, I think, how it works. Yeah, because and that's how I do in my DAW. I'm a little camera on the corner. I've done like 2 DAW streams. I just decided to start doing it because I'm already really set up. I already have the cameras and everything because of Gear-Splaining, and because so I just turn on the cameras, I set up a new layout, and boom, there it was. But I am in the corner. That's where my camera lives. And you're right. If you can't see the details, why show the DAW? And being on a DAW, though, if you show the whole thing to details, that could be pretty boring. It's more interesting to see the person. So I think you struck kind of like a decent compromise by doing that opacity, and that there's a large image of you, which is more interesting to watch you while you work than just watching a DAW click off and move around. But then for people who really want to see what you're actually doing, and this is something that's unique to DAWs. If you want to stream with a DAW, that's the weird challenge, because if you're going to play an instrument live, just that whole thing is interesting. One camera and you got it.
Yep.
On a DAW, it's way harder because the display of a DAW is really, it's aimed so much so at the person who's using it, the driver. Mm-hmm. That then being able to find a way to broadcast that out and be interesting is pretty tough.
Yeah, and I mean, at this moment, that's the only thing that I really want to be streaming, is kind of just like is working on tracks in the DAW. And so I was like, if I'm going to stream this, I got to figure out something that's a little more interesting and fun to watch. So I'm glad that it's, I'm glad. Thank you for that feedback, man. I appreciate that.
Yep. Noticed it. Thought it was cool.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Basic. All right. Well, let's talk to chat real quick. Doug, I'm going to check that out. That's pretty cool. I don't have any intention of using Bitwig, though they do have some very cool features in Bitwig. I kind of think that dance with the one that brought you, right? And I'm so deep in on Ableton, I'll probably stick around. But that said, I really like what they're doing in Bitwig. Some of the modular stuff that's in there is really interesting to me, and the macros that you're able to build up. It seems to be a really well thought out thing. And if I wasn't, 10 years, if I wasn't 15 years deep on Ableton, I'd probably be looking more into Bitwig. I think I might end up still going with Ableton because some of the instruments in it are absolutely totally brilliant. Let's see. And being able to use push in it is also very cool. Personally, I wish Ableton and Waves would resolve their issues and allow you to use Waves plugins as audio units in Ableton, but that's a Mac specific issue. Didn't even know that they had some kind of issue.
I use some of the. You can totally do that. 100%.
All right, can do it.
Can do.
Can do. I will tell you one thing, and I've said it before about Waves. Fuckers need to put some drop-down menus in there so we don't have to install 10 versions of the same plugin with just slightly different configuration.
You mean you don't like having an L3 maximizer, an L3 stereo maximizer, an L3 mono maximizer, an LL3 maximizer, the L16 3 maximizer, the L16 3 stereo maximizer. Don't forget the LL16 3 mono maximizer.
And just use folders. Come on, you guys. Grow up.
Vitamin, stereo, vitamin, mono. Just have a mode switch.
Yeah, or make it VST3 so it can self-detect what kind of track it's on and configure itself. Yeah. That would at least cover the stereo non-stereo stuff,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
That's half of it. That's half the problem with their sprawl. The other half is that other little variants. They could just stash all those into like a drop down.
While we're on the topic of plugins, sound toys. What opinions?
They're dope.
I'm in the same boat. They're kind of dope, and I love the fact that they all have just a bypass button there.
The little micro shift is I don't think I can make music without the little micro shift.
Yeah,
which I got for free on Black Friday like 5 years ago.
As cliche as it is, Decapitator is just kind of awesome. It's like I need a little color and I need a little compression.
I know Valhalla and the delay, which like Echo Boy or something. Sound Boy?
Echo Boy is one of the sound toys. If you check out sound toys, they all kind of, like physically look modeled after kind of like amp heads. They have very skeuomorphism, has a lot of like knobs and kind of wood trim and stuff like that, but they sound really good and they're usually very simple and straightforward. And kind of do what they say on the tin. And some of them can be really wild, like the Primal Tap and Crystallizer, and what's the Phase one? They're neat. Anyway.
Yeah, I think
I want to get the reverb. Wait, is Valhalla not Sound Toys?
No, Valhalla is
its own company.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking
their stuff is great
totally
too.
different. Forget that. I want Valhalla's shimmer.
The guy that lives in Seattle.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Valhalla Delay is crazy and lots of fun, and their reverbs are really nice.
Mixed up in my head.
Nice. Yeah, I still the Tal reverb is still my jams. I love that thing.
That's cool. I was hoping to hear something like that. I was curious about the Tal. I've heard a lot of good things from people I don't know, and I've kind of been reaching for another reverb lately and haven't picked one up, thankfully.
It's one of those ones that you only have a couple of parameters, and that's what makes it really special. And then you can throw a delay into it if that's you want a little more length or a little more movement or something like that.
I like the focused plugins like that are a bit limited because you kind of know what you're grabbing. It's a specific like character. You go, oh, I need this, and you grab it and you put that on there, and then
that's why I like MV2. I like those kinds of things too, where it's just a couple of parameters and exactly, man. Like RVox, that is such a money plugin.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Renaissance plugins are just that does the thing. Yep.
The Waves Renaissance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do the thing. They're pretty specific and utilitarian.
They're badass.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think that I'm gonna pick up that Valhalla though, because it's so awesome.
Yeah, you should. I mean, all the Valhalla reverbs are really, really good.
Yep, and they're all $50?
Yeah, so I wouldn't even do it. It's not like I'd buy them all. Buy one casually.
For $50, you're getting a quality rich plugin.
You guys ever get into the IR game and just like downloading tons of different impulse responses and like playing around with different vintage verbs just from impulse responses thing?
I haven't. That's the one place where I'm lacking. Like I've got, I think 2 convolution reverbs. I've got Pro R, but that thing's it's just it does too much, and you kind of look at it and go like, I don't want to play this game. And I think that's kind of it.
I mean, that's a good way. Like get yourself any IR reader, and then you could go download like any of the old lexicon. Like in a lexicon, what is it, the 480 or whatever? Like the classic console reverb from the 80s and 90s, or there's just so many different reverbs. Or you could go find that, like the Abbey Road reverb Waves plugin. That's just an IR reverb. That instead of using some algorithm is just just an interface with an IR behind it.
So here's my thing with impulse response reverbs. I guess I never really got into them. I understand what they are and what they do, and I have there's one from Max that's in Ableton, right? I don't know if it's a good one or a bad one, but my understanding of them is that what they bring to the table is basically presets. They basically just adjust the engine of a reverb plugin so that it matches what was happening in this other type of space.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, if you want to get like a specific space and the settings that were in it, you could do it that way, and that's kind of cool. But what never really occurred to me is that important with it was that you're getting some kind of like more quality reverb, because I still feel like when I want to dial in a reverb, I know what I want to reach for and I want to tweak until I get there. You know what I mean? So, and since it's not bringing anything to the engine level, it's just literally basically another preset. To me, I almost feel like I could either find it by just scrolling through presets, or I could tweak my way there. And maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe that I'm missing something very cool about that. But it also seems to me that then, if that's the case, like the 2003, when it was really coming out and it was starting to be widely available, you had lots of people who were going and recording impulses, and that seems like almost like a, I don't want to say like a waste of time, but it just wasn't like this as hugely and important a thing as it seemed like it was being made. I could be totally fucking crazy, and please tell me if I am. But that is
it's
my approach.
It's like anything that models something, you know, you got to kind of decide is like for yourself, I guess personally, is that something that I feel like I'm actually getting the vibe of this thing, or am I like just kind of like, you know, getting the low rent Picasso type vibe of this thing? I mean, you just kind of have to like, you have to decide that for yourself. There's plenty of IR readers that have a lot of extra parameters to them that you can build some pretty cool sounds with, you know, along, you know, further past what you want. Like if you wanted to take like a, you know, a plate reverb impulse response, and you can change the size of that to what suits you, and you can change the length, or you know, there's plenty of things that you can do to it that you know, I don't know. I think they're cool. It'd be a cool way to explore a lot of new reverb sounds really quickly.
Here's an idea I wanted to bounce off you, Dave. So working in a DAW with reverb.
Yeah.
I've actually been starting to put reverb on basses. And my concept there is that, I mean, don't put reverb on a bass, right? But I think it sounds cool sometimes. And what I'm thinking about doing is setting up one bus that has a reverb and has an EQ before it that's cutting off at like 200.
Mm-hmm.
So you can still reverberate the harmonics that are on that bass patch or bass patches, because it's not a bus. But now you're not getting that muddiness that's accompanied by doing it on the full patch and throwing the lowest frequencies around.
Yeah, I mean, if you feel like you can get away with it and you're happy with the outcome, then I mean, dude, it's fucking 2020. You can do whatever you want now. You know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, I'm definitely gonna try them. Just wondering if you'd tried anything or if you had any implementations.
You know what I do sometimes is I'll take and I'll run a bass patch. You know, like I use the Minotaur is pretty much what I use these days for bass stuff. Sometimes I'll make it on a Matrix Brute, but mostly on the Minotaur, or occasionally I'll play like some electric bass. But I'll take that and I'll throw it into a you know, a send bus or a duplicate bus of some kind. I'll high pass it to, you know, enough that the muddiness is gone, like you said, somewhere around 200 to 600 probably, and then I'll spread it with micro shift, and then sometimes overdrive it. And same kind of concept that you're going for with the spread and everything, but then your sub is still.
And are you
really
mixing
thick.
that back in with the original then?
Yeah, they're parallel.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Real quick, I want to give a shout out to everyone in chat. Can everyone give Mr. Basic a quick follow, please? It would be really awesome. He streams at weird times, but he does post up video on demand. I listened to one earlier today. Did an excellent hybrid VCV and gear stream at, I believe, like 3:50 in the morning. It was definitely a time when I was dead asleep. I listened to it at work the next day. So I'd love it if we all gave him a quick follow. That way we can all stay together on what he's doing, and yeah, if you guys could all just indulge me on that. All right. So now I had planned, and it just doesn't feel right. I'd planned on, we did the Gulag thing last time, and that was hysterical. And so I found this other thing, but I don't think we should even do it. It just doesn't feel right. This time it was 6 wars fought for ridiculous reasons. And they were like really idiotic conflicts of history. And we're going to try to pepper it in our own way, but I think we're going to skip that. There is a little bit of music news. It was the Behringer 2600. They did a first demos and overview. It's probably worth checking that out. Co, can you pull that one up and play? Because this unit is more interesting the more I look at it. Even though it's fucking Behringer and Uli needs to get shot in the dick. But
man, I had a really funny
Behringer, and welcome to the 26 into it.
desk.
So the 2600 is definitely in the category.
I was also looking at the desk.
Like a winter shredding it.
Where did he get a desk like that?
I don't know. I just really like it.
Out at night, or its prevalent use on Depeche Mode's
Frankenstein.
81 debut album.
Edgar Winter, yeah.
Or as
Edgar Winter is the whitest guy.
Brass sound from.
I don't mean that in a racial way. I mean he's actually like
Don't Go.
Not albino, but it's like otherwise. Damn, that dude.
Captivate a new generation of synth lovers by being used on the nostalgia-inducing soundtracks of the hit Netflix series Stranger Things.
It's an Oberheim on Stranger Things. Why are you even mentioning that?
Okay,
dipshit?
so let's check out the synth. So starting over here with VCO1, that is set to a square wave, just like on the original.
Like I want to give them a chance, and then they do shit like that.
So that's a square wave, and then obviously we can make it into a saw by patching it in. Okay, so let's check out VCO2.
Looks like they're actually ripping off the way Lopop presents his videos. You know what I mean?
Let's mix those in.
Well, I mean, they rip everything off, so.
That is kind of their thing. I bet he's kind of regretting doing that video.
They should have started out saying, "Hi, this is Uli."
And then finally we have...
Yeah, the next video from Uli is going to have like this
is
stereo,
the 2600 by Behringer.
Yeah.
Damn, it is just like a loop pop, isn't it?
It's going to have like the oscilloscopes, the stereo oscilloscopes that he uses in the next video.
Is Loop Hop ever on camera? Like, has he ever, like, I don't think I've ever seen his
I don't think I've
face.
ever seen him either.
I've seen it on Facebook.
I know his hands really well.
3 VCOs. Now, just to mention here,
his videos are amazing, man.
They're really good.
Low frequency oscillators as well. Each and every one can be set to that, or you
he was one of the people who had a TD3 video the day of the announcement, which means he got paid and he was in advance.
VCOs as low frequency oscillators.
Say what you will, but Bo does not do that.
Down here. So let's check that out. So we'll just take the triangle.
More ethics, I guess. I don't know. Because if he's going to do a review, he has to also agree with who the company is.
VCO2.
That's a really interesting discussion that I don't know that I know what the answer is to it.
It's a tough one because those guys are all trying to make money, but there's not that much money in there yet. So could you really begrudge Lopop for taking a payday?
That's exactly what I feel like. It's like it doesn't. I don't know, man. It doesn't matter. People aren't gonna. I'm not convinced that like the buying power of that is that high either. You know, it's like them giving him an instrument or giving him a payday.
I think, well, I mean, so he had a TD3 video, right? And that's only $150. I don't think that's swaying someone one way or another. I think they gave him extra cash. But also then having the first day one TD3 video, he must have gotten an additional 4,000 subscribers from it.
Yeah. also kind of gets tiring when it's an endless ad all the time, you know?
Yep.
It's just like...
Dog, it's YouTube. You don't got to do shit. FTC can try to come get these YouTubers.
There's a lot of stuff you can do. There's also vibrato on there, which is patched by default to...
But Bo is very ethical about it. He straight up said that he could have done it with the Behringer, but he doesn't agree with some of their business practices and elected not to do it. This sounds awesome.
And what's useful?
I mean, that's the exact kind of like, it's got that
delay.
It's got the hum. It's a real analog. It's got what you want out of a real analog.
So basically,
our resident streaming right now, actually, a resident 2600 expert, Wagner, he says that of this, even though he's a Uli hater too, this is interesting to him because it has multi-mode filter. It has at least one or two other features on it that aren't on the 2600, and the LED lights are gorgeous. And otherwise, it's pretty much feature complete. And given that ain't nobody getting one of the Korg 2600s, this may be the only option anyway. Unless you're one of 1,000 people.
Man, I played a Moog 1 again the other day, and I was just like, I want one of those, dude.
The big one. That is the big one. Did you put it in unison and do a filter sweep?
I did not, no. It's all 32 oscillators or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
I was able to pare it down to its presets are so amazing, man. They all sound so good, but I was able to pare it back to, I couldn't figure out a panel mode on it, so I just like kept paring everything back until I was just on oscillator.
Trying to initiate it, yeah.
Built-in reverb with the spring emulation.
It's the big one, man. There's nothing quite like it.
Have you guys seen Uncut Gems?
So if you want to,
no, but the world wants me to see it very much. I get advertisements for it quite a bit. Although lately with Shen Yun and Michael Bloomberg, I'm not seeing any advertisements for anything other than Shen Yun and Michael Bloomberg. By the way, hold on. I just gotta go on a quick tangent here. This is not political. Michael Bloomberg, guy running for president, he's spending a ton of money in advertising. All right, everybody's aware of that. How the fuck is Shen Yun competing with that? They are. Every other advertisement somehow or there is this stupid fucking Shen Yun. Do you guys know what Shen Yun is, or am I just targeting?
Oh no.
I don't know what it is.
I've lived in 2 cities that had Shen Yun campaigns. Almost back to back.
Crap. They really paper the airwaves. And like they even have like a physical paper.
I don't know about the airwaves, but I would just see billboards when I was driving.
A time factor.
Dude, if you go to Sushi Thai, there's a Shen Yun poster.
Yes, there is one there. As soon as you walk in.
My Facebook feed, it's Bloomberg, Shen Yun, Bloomberg, Shen Yun, Bloomberg, Shen Yun. YouTube ads are Bloomberg or Shen Yun right now. Like, do they have $100 million to spend advertising this thing? Where are they? Like, how could they possibly be making money off the show? Do tickets cost like $5,000?
Somebody said that if Michael Bloomberg spent $100 million every day until the election, he'd still have $30 billion.
That's not good for the world.
Okay, so another element of this is, of course,
unless you own a radio station, right? And then you're making tons of money
here by using the gate output of the MS1.
That's basically just a giant transfer of money to like Michael Bloom to Zuckerberg.
Yo, can you go back with that shot of the desk?
As a profile.
Dude, this desk is so sick.
You need to make sure you're.
Do you want to see that full desk from the beginning?
Yeah,
or just...
no, the side shot of the desk. It was like 30 seconds ago. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It's coming up.
I'm gonna clock it to.
Pause it when it gets there.
Boom.
Yeah, damn, dude. That's just such a good.
That desk, y'all.
I'm like looking at my desk right now and like trying to figure out how I could do that because it's about as long.
Yeah, you chop some little cuts into it, put some little 9U racks or maybe 9U 12U racks in there.
Yeah,
I almost feel like you could buy a desk that has those racks in it, but then cut the ones that came without and put those in, and then that's kind of how you get that style.
Well, I'd build it myself, but
yeah,
like if you guys look at my side over here, I have like the Digitact and the Digitone over on this side over here, and then like, you know, keyboard and stuff. And then I kind of have like a bunch of wasted space over on this side. Like there's all this space, and then I have like, you know, synths and stuff to the side. But I love the like, you know, the loop around thing. And I've been thinking about something like that. I just like how that desk is laid out, man.
It's a pretty dope desk.
Because part of it too with the Digitone and the Digitact is I have to kind of roll over to get to it. I can't get from it just like in the one spot. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately of like, you know, I have a TV tray right now next to me that I keep like, you know, notes and stuff on. But I tried putting the Digitact and the Digitone on there. And it didn't feel right, like, you know, in a complete U shape. Like with this is like, you know, perpendicular to the desk. Anyway, I don't know. I just like the layout of the
Thomas
desk.
Aquinas desk. You know about that one? So the philosopher St. Thomas Aquinas, and he took like Platonic or Aristotelian philosophy and added like a ton of church to it. Okay, and basically he used all that to justify. He reconciled philosophy with religion. He's huge in that. But he's also like a 400-pound dude, and the desk that he did all his work at, he had monks cut so that it like wrapped around him.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that SSL duality that's like in a U shape that's completely wraparound? That's a pretty cool.
I've not.
It's in some French studio.
Solid state logic.
Yeah, an SSL console duality, and then there's one of the control rooms at NRG Studios in LA has a kind of wraparound console. It has a custom. It's like two different Neve desks that they put together, but it's wraparound. And I've been in that room, and that is a sick desk. It's really, really cool. Not that we need consoles in 2020, but it's still cool.
It's still pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that. I like those desks though. So the way I'm doing it though is a little different. So I'm trying to do it all off of the push, really. So if I want to launch my OB6, it's one. I just find it in my collection, and then it's one button, press, launch, boom, OB6 is loaded up. I have it all routed so that it automatically comes through, and then I perform it on the push, and I have an instrument template, and I'm using an NRPN enabled Max for live instrument, although I'm still testing to see if I can get even better performance off of the paid editor. I still haven't been able to configure that to get it to work. I have the demo. I'm doing it all in the push, right? So if I want to tweak it, I'm able to tweak it directly in the push. So I don't even need to like leave my desk to use my entire rig back there. But for half the instruments, I have to, right? So Matriarch doesn't have CC enablement. Obviously, DFAM, TD3, those you got to actually tweak those. So then back there, I have control over Ableton, so I can set up my sequence over here, and then I can walk back there, and then I can literally arm tracks, hit play, overdub, record from back there, doing all my control back there, and then tweak knobs and make it all happen.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm trying to keep it like as much on the push and controlling from the push when I'm working in the DAW, but still being able to go back there. And that's also how, if I track vocals, I'm doing it right now as I'll record it from back there. I'll just get on my mic, the same rig that I jam on my stream. And then literally just on my main mixer, I'm able to arm and launch. It works beautifully. 2020 is awesome for me.
Dude, 2020 is so good. Code, did you see that that energy link I just sent?
No.
You should pull that up.
You guys, can you hold it down for 1 minute? I'm gonna run downstairs and grab a Canada Dry.
Well, I mean, Code and I don't really like each other, and I'm not sure you should.
Is the video a minute long?
Oh, that's worse. Are there more pictures on here?
Yeah, scroll down like just a little bit and go to the Studio B Media and then go to the second picture.
Oh man.
Yeah, the second and third pictures. Dude, that thing is like fucking wraparound. It's so
I
dope.
love the decor in the room too.
Oh, they call it, what do they call it?
I mean, that's both functional and gorgeous.
It's so cool. And the inside the booth itself, like it's got that, it's just awesome.
Yeah,
it's
look
so
at
cool.
that. Holy crap.
Supposedly in that room, let me see if I can think of it. They basically like set it up where no walls are parallel at all, so it's like kind of has an anechoic kind of vibe to it.
That is really cool.
It's interesting being in there because it like has a yeah, it's super cool. One of the yeah, that's a rad room. Anyway, I thought we were talking about wraparound stuff. I like
that's
wraparound
gorgeous.
stuff.
And the coffee mug. Where does the coffee mug go? I don't know. Nowhere near that console, methinks.
You know, the studio I used to work at had a Neve, and my dad and I built, because like the way that a lot of those work these days is that, you know, because instead of tape machines, there's computers now. And what people would do is they'll take like, you know, their keyboard and they'll just put the keyboard right on top of the console. Yeah, no, I mean and then you're sitting and like, you know, you'd take it like from the center part of the console and you'd have like a computer monitor on an arm, like over the console, and then you're just basically sitting leaning over this console editing all day. That's basically like, yeah, it's awful. So I came up with this idea that we would build this like little like desk that you could clamp onto the front, where like the that leather bumper is. And so my dad and I built this thing, and then the keyboard would sit on top. It was nice and it was comfortable and it was ergonomic. And one of the dudes that was working there at the time had his coffee mug and he set it on the thing and he knocked it over onto all the faders. And I got blamed. I got blamed.
If you wouldn't have installed this super convenient thing that saves our backs. Oh man, that's rough.
I just thought it was funny because then they took it out and then it was like, then you're leaning over the console again and it's just like, man, why did I get blamed?
That would be kind of awesome though. Like if you had a little draw out tray that has your keyboard and everything down there for dealing with the DAW, and then as you pull that out, your screens kind of just materialize from above so that you still have like open access to all the faders and channel strips.
What does this track to? Does this track to tape or something? I don't see a DAW.
There's a computer over on the right-hand side.
Oh, okay.
Usually in big studios like this, the computer will be on a little cart to the side these days.
It's like a cart that slides in and out.
But it's always an incredibly uncomfortable spot. Like these studios are so archaic these days. Like it's all built around this like awesome looking thing, but wherever the computer ends up being is always such an uncomfortable spot to sit.
It really is. And so I was in a band and we recorded in a studio. This was 2011, somewhere in there.
Go to Studio A. You can see the little cart on the side. If you go to Studio A,
and they did it off the cart. And the way they did it, the way they recorded us, we brought everything, but the guy didn't even have the drummer set up. He just programmed the MIDI, and he had our drummer literally like play on a chair with his hands, and he had that fucking cart. And I was just like thinking, wow, you're clicking this whole thing in. That's amazing. I think he used Steven Slate drums to do it. It sounded awesome, but also kind of like, why are we in a giant studio, man? You know, you could have done this in a home studio and been more comfortable. You wouldn't have been on this terribly unergonomic cart.
Yeah. It's big studios are one of those things, man. It's like we all wish it was a lot cooler than it was, but I think Phineas got it right, you know. He tweeted the other day something to the effect of, you know, people always tease me about working in a home studio or like in a bedroom studio, but it's like every time I go to a fancy ass studio, it takes them an hour to plug in an aux cord. And it's like, yeah, man, there's so much truth to that. I've been on both ends of that. Like straight up, I've been on both ends of that. And it's like, hey, here's this really simple thing that I'd really like to do really super easily that like at my house I could do in like half a second. And you're like, how the fuck do I do that? You know? And
there are some good advantages to being in a big studio. The first that comes to mind is acoustic treatments tend to be better. You often will have more infrastructure for things like the entire mixing room having scientifically acoustically treated, though there are some crazy people who do that in their own home studio. Most people, they'll put up foam, they'll do some kind of acoustic dampening, but we're not talking about, getting, specific from Dow Corning and, and breaking out math so you can, tame the reflections perfectly. And you run into that a lot more often in larger studios. You'll also run into bigger investment in monitors in larger studios. They're way more likely to spend money on big pieces of gear, and that'll often include like Tanois, like the top end ones, the just like perfectly accurate, highly amplified, gorgeous, beautiful monitoring. They'll usually have more microphones than home studios. So they'll have high quality microphones usually, as well as many more of them, which will allow them to select a microphone that fits for your voice or your instrument in a much more optimized fashion.
Yeah.
They'll also often, usually, although I think you have one, have a vocal booth, like a good one. And you can also put like amps and stuff in there and get things done that way. And you have one of those though, right? So that's not a huge bridge to cross. In fact, you can get that done in a home studio if, like, in a few years, if I end up moving into one of the other rooms in the house, it has a walk-in closet, and I will literally just take the shelving down and put up Orlex in there and run cables underneath the door, and boom, I will have a vocal booth.
Yeah, and it's just there's a lot with the like the old school large studio that I'm just kind of surprised. I mean, we've watched it die, like if you went to LA in the 90s, there would have been hundreds and hundreds of these studios. And now you go to LA and there's maybe 30 of them. There really aren't very many left in New York. In smaller markets, they exist because the rent isn't so high, but you used to go in and you could do your tracking and your mixing there, and it made sense. There was, there's kind of a process to it, but now it's hard to picture a workflow without sort of going along the same workflow that you did 30 years ago. That makes it make any sense to me to go into a big studio to make a record. It's hard. And like, this is, I love the idea of the big studio, and I like going into a studio and working on a record and spending the time and the space there. But at the same time, it's just like the dollars just don't make sense, man. It just don't make sense. Like, you're sitting in front of a, $300,000 console with 30 channels of 1081 pre, and it's like, what am I getting out of this? I don't know, man.
Album advances used to be so much larger, and they used to, include a huge amount for studios, and it would be like party time, right?
Yeah.
If you're like a bad 80s hair metal band, you got signed, part of that money was $200,000 to spend 2 months in a studio. And that's what you did. You went to the studio, you partied for 2 months, and occasionally you sang or played stuff, and the engineers probably hated you and thought you were a total degenerate, and you worked through it. And the studio also had like that one you just showed it. There was like a pool table, but they would have, more amenities than that. They were like little hotels sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know that happens now. If you're a big band and you record, how does that even happen? When you're a big band in 2020 and you're going to record Ozzy Osbourne, for example, he has a lot of pull, right? He's world famous. He's been for decades world famous. He's releasing a new album. How did he do that? Did he do that in his home studio? Does he have a studio in his home, and the record label just sent out an engineer and they recorded it on a Pro Tools rig in Ozzy's house, and then he froze everything and just grabbed the hard drive and took the session with him, and then brought it over to Zakk Wylde's home studio, and that engineer then worked through it there, and then so on and so forth. And maybe the only time they were even really together was when they did like rehearsal and writing. So they actually, all they didn't need a studio, they needed like a rehearsal space with a whole lot less gear. Like, that's how I think it happens more now. And so what's provided is kind of like this mobile engineer who brings the session from place to place, or they put it maybe even up on like cloud storage and just download it from spot to spot if they're going to work
out. Yeah, I went to a thing where the guy that engineered the Beatles' White Album, and he also produced a bunch of the David Bowie stuff, and he produced a bunch of stuff for Elton John. I think he was talking about an Elton John record. He used to work at Trident Studios in UK, and said that they spent 3 days getting a snare drum tone.
That's like such a funny thing to say, given all the jokes about snare drums in 2020.
That's just so funny. I think there was like something tied to that where like the A&R guys came in and something, and they were like, "So what you been working on?" You know, and they're like, you know, and then throw up the fader, hit the snare drum. It's like, all right,
That is one good
keep working on it.
That snare drum sample cost like $40,000, right?
So crazy, dude.
Yeah. Why else? So, and is it better? I guess is another question.
Yeah.
Is it better to do it this way, since that new mode, I think, is a lot less collaborative and a lot more remote. You work out of your home studio, your guitarist,
Right.
and then your drummer, maybe they're barely in the room together. And so they can't respond to each other as musicians quickly. So if Zach has a crazy idea, it doesn't happen because he's sitting there listening to Ozzy sing. He can't tell the engineer, hold on, wait, I have an idea. Let me track this. Cue me up. That kind of spontaneity is lost. Instead, he gets a session after Ozzy's done his stuff, and now he can just do his stuff, and that's it because it's already laid out in front of him.
And maybe doesn't have other people in the room influencing what it will be.
Yeah, just the engineer who's sent there from the studio to facilitate the sharing, right? Unless maybe he does it himself, I doubt it. But it is getting easier. You could totally foresee maybe that some musicians today don't even need the engineer to show up to do the tracking themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I think to be a music creator in 2020, you need to have those skills.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard. I mean, maybe you don't, you know, but if you don't, then you need to be able to have the bankroll to be able to tackle that.
Well, yeah. Or, I mean, if you existed and you're a known quantity, if you're one of those guys from before in that era, I don't think you got to learn it now. I don't think that Ozzy needs to learn how to run his own home studio. I think he's Ozzy.
No, but yeah, Ozzy can
bankroll it.
pay somebody to do that for him.
Yeah, I guess I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about like the 20-year-old that's starting to make some waves, you know?
Yeah, the 20-year-old who needs to, the way they got to do it now is they got to
two things. Like, that's the thing though, like you don't have to do it that way, but I mean, with the tools you have available at your disposal, be they actual, tools, meaning like your DAW or access to cheap synths or whatever it is, microphones, etc., and YouTube or Skillshare or whatever, and the internet, like it'd be silly not to. Like that's only going to give you, more self-help tools. You can just go, like, hey, go be creative, do your stuff, and you can put your stuff out into the world way faster. You don't need to wait for a deal. You don't need to get in front of, the right people. Will that help you? Absolutely. Yeah. But, you can do it on your own and just go and see where it takes you.
But transforming the mode may have a negative impact on the quality of the composition when you're talking about formats that rely on collaborative songwriting and the magic that happens when several people are working together. That is a thing. That's why bands are great. That's why people love really good, really tight bands, because they develop this. I mean, a musician is X good, another musician is X good, but if they have that chemistry together, they're much more than the sum of their parts. And the more you keep that chemistry together, the more you keep on getting better and better performances off of each other. And that's, I think, why you see more artists gravitate away from being in band-based formats and be more solo artist style formats. If you look at the landscape of pop music, that's really the way it's gone. The only band-based genres that still exist on the pop level are like country, right?
Yeah, that's worrisome though, because
there's indie rock too. Indie rock still has a pretty big following.
Yeah, I think though,
holding it down.
having the band structure like that, I think that's really helpful, because you do have folks that are constantly challenging one another, or you're trying to meet an expectation, trying to, like, it's a little bit of that push, kind of like what we try to do with the music communities and everything. But otherwise, if you're just
each other too.
If you're just doing it solo and putting your stuff out into the world, sure, the world at large, or the people that listen to your music, they're going to be the ones to push you. But I think it's less I don't know. I guess it would affect different people differently, but I don't know. In my case, it would just be less impactful. It's like, oh, okay, 10,000 people on SoundCloud didn't like it. Cool. Versus, I go to band practice and dude says, dude, that's fucked up. Get better. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I need to work on that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, unless you're a fucking bass player, in which case they can tell you to get better and they're never going to figure out if you did or not. Bass player. I can say that I can have access to making fun of bass players, being that I am one. You ever see a band like? You ever see a band and the bass player is clearly doing fucking nothing, and you're just like, I know what you're up to, dude. You never know you're bad because your amp isn't loud enough and you can't hear yourself during practice, but you fucking suck.
Or it's even better being a saxophone player where it's just about the meme. That's all.
It's just the meme.
Yeah. Well, most of music is, but
Nowadays, yeah. Fucking all about marketing. But there's this great video. I forget his name, but the video's like your bass player fucking sucks. You ever seen that one, Dave?
I haven't seen that one.
All right. I'll try to find it.
I have a friend that we have that conversation a lot about the idea that, the difference between the marketing part of it and the just kind of, well, you made something good and the word of mouth is going to spread it to a level that, people are going to consume it. If it's good enough, people are going to consume it no matter what, kind of thing. And I always find those conversations really, really interesting. I definitely, over the years I tend to lean towards the marketing is such an incredibly important part of it. I mean, there's no question about that in music, especially with the immediacy and the speed that music moves now. If you made something 4 months ago, that's already old news.
That's old news, yeah.
But if it takes 4 months to creeper into like people's ears, all right, you're definitely, it's old news, man.
Yep.
But you know what? You can look at music that's on like top 40 right now. There's a couple tracks in there that are 2 years old, that took that long to get into the top 40. So, you never
know when something's going to ignite. And if it has quality, it can have staying power too.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, there's other ways to market that isn't like dollars into marketing too, you know? Like a lot of the visibility of like a company like Tesla, which has zero marketing,
Tesla, like the cars.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any marketing.
No marketing.
Very little to none.
So it's just like they're getting famous because they do a quality product, or because Elon Musk is interesting.
Quality product, lifestyle, and just kind of their general mode of delivery, the way that you purchase the car, the product itself, all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's all noteworthy. Of those things, yeah. So
how did they sell the first one though without any marketing?
They built the Tesla Roadster. That was the marketing. Is, hey, look, here's this little car that goes really, really fast, and you don't have to put gas in it.
Neat.
Done.
They basically got free marketing because all these car guys started writing about it and went away.
The virality of something, I think, is really fascinating. I mean, I don't remember who it was talking about this, but some podcast or something I listened to recently was like, everybody's going to have their 15 minutes of fame now if you want it, because of the speed of the internet and how fast things become viral. Like anybody and everybody's going to have their 15 minutes of fame. Somebody asked me.
I think it's more like 10 minutes now. But
yeah, it's a day. Somebody asked me the other day. Somebody that's in a band here in Seattle asked me, what do I think that the best thing that they could do to get new fans? And I was like, focus on making a viral video. Like it doesn't even have to be about your music or anything. That would be the fastest way to make music, or to get new fans. Like you were talking about with Loop Hop, being able to get that instrument be the first, that equaled 5,000 plus subs immediately, probably.
Yeah.
It's that same kind of thing. And, discount that a lot. The visibility thing we discount a lot as creators.
Well, it's about igniting, right? It's you can have a quality, just nonstop quality. How do you ignite? How do you take off?
Yeah.
And the way you used to take off in the 90s was you were good enough locally, you got a little bit of reputation, then the A&R guys showed up and they gave you a deal, you went and you record, so there was a quality product, and then an actual marketing team would take hold, and sometimes they'd pay radio stations to play it, payola schemes, or they would put a bunch of money into a music video and see if MTV would play it and maybe strike a deal there and get it out there, and if it was good enough, it ignited long term. And if it wasn't good enough, it still kind of ignited. And it was kind of like, we're just talking business cogs right now. If you invest X amount into a piece of shit, it's still a piece of shit, but it's going to sell all right for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's really frustrating for real artists when they see something like that happen. Like, oh, the marketing bigwigs had, a lot of faith in this guy who doesn't know what he's doing, and he kind of got famous and still struggling. But
so you know what, man, like, I go back and forth on that, and like it irritates me that is so frustrating for, as you called them, real artists. That bums me out. It's like that's just the way it is, I don't know.
No doubt, but when you're finally talking about, put yourself in someone's shoes, and if they see someone who's not whose authenticity, not simplicity or talent, but like they seem to be less a musical creation and more of a marketing creation, and it's bad. It goes all the way, gets big, and then it's gone. But that person made a living. Meanwhile, you've practiced, you've worked very hard, and you're scraping by on pennies playing on a cruise ship. I can totally understand how that could lead to bitterness, because the metrics that should matter for artistry did not pay off, whereas they may have paid off for someone else. Now, that if you approach it totally differently and your approach is to ask for nothing but enjoy the process, your artistry can totally shine without ever having to worry about any of that.
Yeah.
But there is a large, maybe it's less today than it was 20 years ago, but there's a large number of people who are just don't think there's good artists who never hear about.
There's not that small group of people making that kind of music anymore. Mainly because I think there's there's ways to make, as you called it, as you said it, pennies, but there aren't very many ways to make like roughly a living making music anymore.
Yeah.
So I think like part of me kind of feels like some of that bitterness is starting to go away, or it's, because there just isn't as many people making
so then you have this horde of people who are doing artistry with no expectation of a return.
Yeah.
And that middle's carved out. It doesn't even exist.
There's no middle. Yeah.
It still exists on cruise ships. Okay. There's tons of people working those. That industry is not that down.
My friend Matt, who did cruise ships for years, he said that a lot of those cruise ship jobs are starting to go now too. That it's like a drummer and a drum, like a drummer and a DJ now.
Like a DJ.
Yeah.
Oh, the drum machines are finally getting the drummers.
Finally, goddamn.
They tried to make drum machines illegal in England when they came out. Like they were gonna like ruin the ability to hire. Nerves.
Oh yeah, coronavirus on the cruise ships is awful right now, man. They're going to cruise ship right now.
But did you hear about the porn company that offered free porn or free cams to anybody who's stuck on the cruise ship? So that cruise ship that's docked, what happened was it's like a marketing move, but it's kind of brilliant. This company that operates like cams, they said if you're stuck on the cruise ship, all you need to do is email them proof that you're on the cruise ship, like your receipts or something, and they'll send you like all these free tokens. That way, while they can't help make you healthier, they can help you fight the boredom.
Oh man, just get on Twitch. Go to the just chatting category. Easy.
You know what though?
Mode.
I mean, between the pressures of modern life, working, kids, it's nonstop. It rolls on. If someone said, "Hey," and so you pay to go on a cruise, right? And you go on a cruise for a week, It's exhausting. You don't really relax. You wish you would. You bring a book and you maybe spend 10 minutes sitting by the pool, but you don't actually read it because you have an excursion in an hour you got to be ready for, and that's what's really on your mind. And you drink later on when you're on the cruise ship. And so then later your cruise ship gets quarantined and you say, nope, it's going to be like a month before you can return to your regular life. You have to stay on the cruise ship. No excursions. The band is shutting down. You still eat. They're not going to let you die. But basically you get to sleep for a fucking month. I think I'd do it. It sounds incredible. I
like that was the bar for you, though. I like that.
Yep.
I'm proud of you, Dan.
I would be so well rested. It would be incredible.
I'd have my dig attacks. I'd be fine.
I would know that I wouldn't lose my job because they're like, well, Dan's on the cruise ship. That's awful. They'd hold a fundraiser or something, for my family.
Oh, man. Wow.
But I'd be like, yeah, it's awful just being on this cruise ship, sleeping 12 hours a day.
Say 3 Hail Marys. Oh, my God. Wow.
It's my confession. What can I say? That I hope they don't get sick on the cruise ship. But part of me is, there's no part of me that's like, oh, those poor people stuck on a cruise ship. What will they ever do?
Yeah.
We fap a lot, but
yeah.
What else would you ever do being stuck on a cruise ship for a week or several weeks?
Oh no.
What?
Let me just get this sorted on screen. So I'm terrible, and I occasionally look at this thing, the coronavirus updates, and your conversation was just reminding me of that. And it was actually, if you look at this little chart down here, is slowing down and actually going down a little bit, which was great. And then it just shot up today.
So that to me, anybody else think that means that there was some shenanigans in the slowdown, that it wasn't really a slowdown, but rather was an untrustworthy authority system that was perhaps reporting data erroneously to make people more calm? That's what that looks like to me. And then they just couldn't, because and that I think did happen. They were trying to but I think they found evidence via satellites that there's significantly more activity regarding it in Wuhan.
Wuhan is pretty much like the bulk of it. So you got 60,333 confirmed cases, and 48,206 of them are Wuhan.
Yeah, it's a good thing we're covering this on Gear-Splaining because I think we're the difference makers here. So the other thing I read, and I can't confirm this.
Yeah, your Zoom. Yeah.
That it is, they were, and one of them turned up dead too, Iger. So one person who analyzed it said that once it gets hotter and more humid, it is likely the virus will die out. And the reason being because it will significantly reduce transmission. In current conditions, respiratory-borne viruses can survive for about 13 minutes, but once it gets much hotter and more humid, which aren't as good conditions, they will survive for 3 to 7, and then that's at night. During the day, it's even less, or something like that. But the idea is it's below this line that leads to a wide continuance of viral contamination, because it dies out faster than it gets spread. Whereas right now, it gets spread in highly populated areas faster than the virus is able to die. So once the weather changes, this number should start to plummet, because transmission rates will be lower than the number of people who recover. That's kind of or the rate of recovery. It takes, if all these people takes 2 weeks for them to recover, there aren't 60,000 new ones 2 weeks later. So the number starts to plummet by whatever the difference is. So that's supposed to happen once it gets warm out, if his theory holds true. And that's based on the fact that it is a coronavirus, and that's what we've observed in other coronaviruses. So if it follows pre-existing patterns, that is likely what we're going to see. Glad we know so much about coronavirus on Gear-Splaining, huh?
Stay safe, friends in Australia and Japan. And all
Is
those-
Australia at risk?
I'm curious.
Banned?
I'm curious. Do you guys think that Corona has been bought more or less now that coronavirus is a thing in the news?
More. People are making that weird joke. Like,
They
I'll
are.
take my Corona with a Lyme
Yeah.
disease.
Even Beat Theory busted out with a coronavirus joke. Was it 2 weeks ago on Gear-Splaining? That was amazing.
Yeah, so I think that Corona, the beer, is selling more because of coronavirus.
Damn.
Is there a way to prove that? Is there a Corona beer counter page just like this, but it tracks sales of Corona beer? There isn't. There should be.
Drinkers are confusing Corona beer with the coronavirus. Google
Oh, wait.
searches for terms linking the beer and the virus have skyrocketed since the outbreak. No, the popular Mexican beer Corona is not affiliated with the deadly coronavirus that's spreading around the world. And Constellation Brands, which owns the Corona brand in the U.S., told Business Insider, quote, "We believe, by and large, that consumers understand that there is no linkage between the virus and our business." Wow.
Really? Maybe we deserve to die. Go back. There's a link 2 down that said
Oh,
that.
wait,
beer maker
similar
suffered.
terms seem sorry, I thought that had something to do with sales. It does not.
Like,
Never
if I
mind, sorry.
created a beer called conjunctivitis, I would expect things to not go well. But coronavirus, come on.
Presbyopia.
Brutal.
Do you see that 1 2 down? Are you still on that page?
I am not.
Oh, well, that's all right. I think we pretty much covered the shit out of coronavirus, didn't we? I mean, I didn't think we were going to go that in deep on it.
Seems that we did.
Hey, what do you guys think of that ARP? We moved off of it pretty quickly. Is that piquing anyone's interest? Like, what's the price that thing needs to be at for you to consider putting it in your studio?
I mean, it's a fairly complicated device from a physical build standpoint, so I could see it being, even at the Behringer prices, probably closer to $600. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was closer to 1,000.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
I think it's going to come out around $1,500.
I
Oof.
think at 1,500, it's a non-starter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Behringer has actually, this isn't just, oh, damn you, Behringer, but like they've really pissed on a lot of people's nachos lately. And so I don't think it would go very far.
Is that a standard phrase?
There's
No,
no nachos?
just something I use. I mean, could you imagine if someone urinated on a fresh plate of nachos that was all dressed up exactly the way you wanted it, and you were like, oh, cool,
man.
my appetizer, I'm so hungry, oh, you urinated on my nachos. And like, that sucks because it's not like someone took a dump on your nachos. You could just remove that layer of nachos and probably still salvage some of it. But
No.
if they pee on it, it's over. You can't track that.
I'm sorry, but
because the dump has a lot of visible solids, but I also think when you
a
come with
dump
the
is so much worse than pee. There's
Yeah.
no question about
Yeah,
it.
neither situation is ideal, that's for sure.
think about spaghetti sauce here for a second. So if you're talking like old
Okay.
Prego spaghetti sauce, like the really watery stuff that sinks to the
Mhm.
bottom of the spaghetti, the really traditional stuff,
Yeah.
that's like the pea in this example. The poo is much more like the newer, chunky kind of contemporary ragu.
I'm
right?
thinking more just like the meatballs,
yeah.
not like a sauce.
Okay, so you're thinking that the dump, if it has a solid enough level, you could
Somebody with a healthy bowel, like,
just take
what?
it off of the nachos and then remove the top layer of nachos, and then the rest of the nachos are clear.
Yeah, I'm thinking more like, kind of like a type 4 or a type 3 or type 4 on the Bristol stool chart. Like, that'd be acceptable. But yeah, if we're talking about like a type 7, it might as well be someone pissing on your nachos.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're pissing out of your ass, it's it's basically the same.
Yeah, before we wrap, we got to turn it back to music just for a moment. I apologize.
That was me.
We got to touch on the
My bad.
Genesis Pro really quick.
Yes. Oh my god.
So yeah, this thing, 8-10 years in the making. It's finally coming on March 12th, I believe. It will cost a whopping €1.
I'm gonna do it.
So that's pretty cool. And it does seem to be pretty full featured. The thing that gets me a little bit, and I'm glad that it's being sold only for $1, it was built in Synthedit, which is kind of like a synth tool or like a VST tool creation kit. It's a very cool kit. Don't get me wrong. And actually, if he's got a video on here, he actually shows kind of the background of what that all looked like on the programming side. Let me see if I can find it really quick. But yeah, it's it sounds interesting. So let me see if I can. This is all fancy shots, so that's not it. Let's take a look at the first look.
They overdid it with the fancy shots, by the way.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, so this is the synth like program.
That 3D render that came out today has a lot of people worried, like thinking that they're putting out a hardware synth. Jesus.
Yeah, here, I'll back up. So yeah, you can see here the individual things, like he's gone MIDI in to pitch to this oscillator, blah, 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 blah. But when you look at all the connections, it gets kind of nuts kind of fast. So, I mean, he put a ton of work into it, obviously, plus put a nice UI on it. Probably tested the crap out of it, and obviously had time to make some fancy 3D renders. So there's value there in his work for sure. And what I've heard of it so far sounds good. Will it be the next, like Serum Killer or like Diva Destroyer? I don't know. But for $1 or €1, sure.
It's $1.
It's a
Okay,
yeah,
so here's what I want to
play around with that for $1.
Yep.
I didn't realize that with Synthedit you could package it all up and turn it into a commercialized plugin.
Yeah, they have
it was like Reactor Library.
They have the VST3. You can't use VST2, but it is the Steinberg VST3 standard that you can publish under. You still do need to get the proprietary license from Steinberg, but that's basically just writing them a letter and saying, "Hey, can I do this?" And they say yes.
Okay, got it. Shroomhead was panning it a couple days ago. Panning like left, right, or panning like, I don't like this. Pan.
Or was he just okay boomering it?
Good night, Dave's dad. Sleep well, sweet prince.
Good night, Dave's dad.
The 3D render really did get a bunch of people thinking that there was like a bona fide hardware version of it coming.
By the way, if we ever go down the Yuli route of like cloning people's stuff, we are definitely making recreations of these digital synths. I don't give an F. Like doing this, basically, making those things. Because you guys have all seen like the Serum kind of 3D renders that they have on the Xfer site. Yeah. And you look at it and you're like, damn, that would be sick. Like, that'd be a cool thing to have. But of course, it doesn't exist. It should exist. Probably wouldn't do Serum, obviously, because you'd get sued into oblivion. But I'm sure you could find a few good ones to pick off, or even get into something, build it, put it into an ASIC or an FPGA or whatever you're gonna do, and then put it out into the world with some real controls. That'd be fun.
That has happened. I mean, I don't think it happened great though.
Isn't that the rip-off kind of doing that? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Waldorf did Waldorf Attack. It was a piece of software first, and it's a drum machine, and then they did a hardware unit. So they made it into a physical unit, and it was basically just a piece of hardware with some DACs on it and some controllers, and that's all it was.
I think that's kind of cool though, because I mean, if you think about it, like the Digitact, for example, like that's all that is. It's an FPGA, and it has some, like the audio handling on the output for things like analog are there, but like everything else is digital, and it's all just basically running software just on hardware. Digitone, same thing. There's not like some magical FM oscillators. Like that's all in a chip, and that's cool. I don't have a problem with that. I think adapting it to hardware, that's kind of neat, and you might reach a different audience. You might find new utility for something that's already existed, or, even change it up a little bit, because obviously some of those VST interfaces aren't exactly, they look cool, but they might not be ideal for actually using.
I think the problem is the implementation. I mean, look at all those cables. Doing that in hardware, it may be simple because it's software to implement, but then being able to develop controls may be pretty difficult.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too bad. I mean, one of the things that we were talking about in the Gear-Splaining channel was, for something, if you're going to do like Serum, it would almost be necessary to have like a touch sensitive interface, maybe like a little screen that's touch sensitive for doing things like envelopes, LFO shapes, stuff like that. And that just opened up a lot of cool possibilities.
Yeah, it would. You'd have to do it. There's no other way. You want to, if you want to do something like Serum with the multiple breakpoint envelope, you can't tie those to a physical thing like a knob.
Well, you could. I mean, to some extent, Electron's done that, but it's not the best. Like, it's definitely clunkier than just whoop whoop whoop.
Yeah, doing it on a touchscreen I think would be the best because they're digitally calculated envelopes anyway.
Oh, hold up! It's got the alpha knob, one knob
to rule them all.
To rule them all.
Did I post anything stupid to Ohmforce's page today? I haven't today yet.
Oh, I don't know that you have. You should do that.
I haven't since the last one. What's this? What's something stupid I should put on there?
Let's see.
Now taking suggestions. So Dave, in case you don't know, there's this plugin company called Ohmforce. They used to make really amazing plugins, and then they really got They started smoking crack or something. They let their Twitter page, the one
medicinal cocaine.
Yeah.
Oh,
they let their Twitter page lapse, and so I registered it. It's still linked on their website too. So I now control their Twitter page. They don't even know it. That's how much
it is. Ohmforce, synth fan, well hung, anti-gulag.
Yeah.
You should go to Chuck E. Cheese and fight a kid.
What should I put in there now? I can put something totally stupid.
See, how did I don't want to click on.
Should I tag these guys in? Like, I have a boner for Genesis Pro.
Yeah, or something.
I don't feel bad. I don't know. I feel a little bad. Well, that's a total contradiction, but you have to understand. I feel bad because I'm fucking with anybody.
How am I not following you?
That person.
That's crazy. I swear.
On the other hand, these guys are still selling their products, and they aren't letting like download keys aren't coming out, and people have pretty much figured out to not buy from them anymore. But it's not like they return that money either. So part of me doesn't feel all that.
Yeah, right, Stig, that is totally the people that you're thinking of. Yep. But yeah, give them a follow. That's Dan taking the reins for Ohmforce since they don't feel like doing social media anymore. And yeah. Oh, and thank you for the follow.
I wanted to say that that Roland System 1 is similar to what you guys are talking about. I know you guys are talking about like taking like, classic VSTs. I mean, these are future classics, right? And making them into a thing. But Roland is kind of trying to do that with the System 1 where you can like load in different sounds into it.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic idea. If it's implemented correctly. I think having more...
Because it's a controller with a tiny little computer in it, and then you can take that controller on the road with you really easily if like you like those sounds and want to use them live. I think that's a really good, to me, that seems like the perfect thing for somebody that's like in a band that also does a little bit of recording at home or something. Because then they can load up any sound they want to, and like they can explore those creative things. They're not just limited to like what's already on there. You have a larger library of things that you can load on. I think that's pretty cool, personally.
Yeah, that's actually, I hadn't thought about it like that. Approach it more like build a really good interface physically, and then really build it as a multi-unit, like a multi-synthesizer or a multi-sound source. That way, if you do need something that's just like, hey, I need something that's very percussion-y and does, bass sounds, like it does that. Or I need something that does lush pads, and there's a specialized unit for that or whatever.
Yep.
All right, I just added a tweet. Refresh.
the The hashtag Genesis Pro is giving me a giant Woody. Boing.
Fuck these guys. They need to stop taking people's money and not delivering product. They have a product that's been in advanced release for like 3 years. Took everyone's money.
I just noticed that you put the Timberwolf as the. That's so good. So good.
That's such a subtle dig because like they have nothing to do with the Timberwolf. Also, the Timberwolf sucks.
And
So
does
joke.
D-Quill have the System 1 or the System 8?
He had a System 1. I think he sold it.
Really?
I could be wrong on that. Yeah.
Last I checked, he loved that thing, so that would be surprising.
Let's see what we got going on. I haven't checked in a little bit.
Have you guys done?
Stig. That is our. That's ours.
Have you guys done the broom challenge yet?
The broom
No, a
challenge.
couple people I know did. It confused me. I was like, why the fuck are people?
Do tell. What's the broom challenge?
Well, only what was it? It was I think on the 11th. Was that yesterday? Or no, it was on the 9th, I think, where the gravitational pull was in such an alignment that you could stand your broom up on end, but you can only do it on that day.
Oh, interesting.
So, something very specific with gravity. Yeah.
Yeah, it turned out that gravity is the same every single day, and you can do that any day.
Yeah.
Because the reason why is because your broom's center of gravity is really low because it has a wide base.
Makes for good conversation.
It's more fun.
It was an entertaining.
Gravity shifted.
I liked it.
Maybe that's why I lost a bunch of weight. Gravity was lesser.
Yeah, gravity. You look great, by the way. I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
55 pounds.
Hell yeah.
55.
Oh, yes.
Trying to do it in a very healthy way, too.
You're on a pizza only diet?
Yes, but I can only eat 2 bites of pizza a day.
I had pizza tonight.
Papa John's diet. The Papa John's diet.
Hey, so you may not know this, but we covered Papa John extensively on this for a few shows.
Did you guys watch the H3?
I
podcast,
posted it up. I posted it up the other day. I was kind of after we did so many shows, kind of riffing on the Papa John sweating and everything else. To see him on H3 was just like, oh, this is too good.
Visibly damp Papa John's. Wait, what happened? Can someone fill me in? What was H3?
Well, H3, Ethan and Hila, like H3. No, okay. So if you don't watch the show, it's great. Fantastic hosts and just general YouTubers. And they had Papa John on for an interview.
Like Papa Bless came from H3H3. Like a lot of the Papa John memes came from H3H3 specifically.
And he was on the show, long format, sit down, serious chat.
We talked about Papa John so much one show on here that people in chat were like, are you going to talk about gear? Because the whole 40 pizzas in 30 day things. Look, the Stig, he may have admitted to not eating 40 pizzas in 30 days, but he was also visibly damp in that interview, and everything about him confirmed that what we already knew, that this is a man who had eaten 40 pizzas in 30 days. I fully believe it.
I think he clarified in the H3 podcast that he had 40 pizzas, which is, well, I tested them out, looked at them.
Apparently, it was also demonetized.
Yeah, it was.
Interesting.
Yeah. What the H3 was?
Conspiracy.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite thing about that interview was when they were talking about money, because he's sold over 8 million shares of Papa John's since he's been ousted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And at $50 a share times 8 million, you get to well over 400 million. And at one point, Ethan was like, "Are you a billionaire?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "It's closer to $1 billion than to 500 million, though." I think at one point too, he's like, honestly, with all this, I'm gonna be fine.
Sure, do whatever you need to do to make us feel better about your existence, Papa.
Yeah.
Here's what I know. Right now he has on his shirt, it says Papa, and it looks like the logo. Not, but it looks like it. So he's still kind of riffing off of it. He's definitely eaten up and bitter and pissed off inside by this whole thing. It also triggered instability in his life, which is actually kind of tragic if he wasn't so hateable. And that led to the divorce of him and his wife. And it led to him saying the ultimate line of "No more free pizza to you," to her. Fuck. But then I think really the ultimate thing was the 40 pizzas in 30 days, because at that point he wasn't sympathetic at all. But then when you hear that, you're like, oh, I get it. Money isn't everything.
Yep.
And that brings us full circle to the musicians who are working on just their art.
Yeah, and if,
money isn't everything. You could still live in hell and be rich.
if you enjoy
it's true.
if you enjoy awkward humor and just general good goofy chat, definitely check out H3 Podcast. It's good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yep.
That episode is really worth watching.
Just real quick, do you ever watch the scooter episodes? The electric scooter episodes, scooter people? Oh yeah, so good.
She was banging the delivery driver. She got pizza lined up for days. These people's life is more pizza. It's pizza. It's not even good pizza. Like Lou Malnati, I bet whoever he is eats a lot of pizza, but he's like, fuck yeah, I mean, Lou's. Right? Papa John's lives in a world of Papa John's. Okay. I've had Papa John's pizza. Halfway through it, I was like, fuck this thing. All right.
Papa John's. It's okay.
David, when's the next time you're streaming?
I'll probably be on tomorrow morning.
Cool. Everyone in chat, can you please go give David a follow? Really appreciate you being on. Once again, it was an awesome show.
Guys, I always love being on. Thank you for the invite.
You bet. Next week, we have Abstract on, and we're going to be talking about visuals. So visual generation show is next week. Should be pretty cool. That's it. Maybe the music world will serve up some form of news, some way, somehow, some form. But I doubt it.
New Kendrick record.
A new Kendrick record. That's what we have to look forward to.
Yeah. 2020, man.
Also, everyone who's listening, come to this show and we'll do track review ad hoc. Throw a link in chat. We will, with our guest, listen to it and talk about what you posted. So feel free to come back to the show next week if you have a track and you want to get played on here. Throw it in there. Co and I will pick it apart, and whoever our guest is. Sounds good? Time to raid on out.
Good. Thank you, everybody. We will see you next time. I am ready to raid in 5 seconds.